Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second Momentum Mod Q&A live stream slash discussion sort of stream, whatever these will become in the future. How's everybody doing? We have like 80% more production value. Shoutouts to Gelmo-san for for giving some hot tips after the first one on how to improve the overall OBS experience. But yeah, so I'm really excited to keep doing these because we're not only going to just do questions and answers in the future. We do Q&A, discussion, and like gameplay, showing off gameplay stuff, hanging out, you know, after the games are released too with 1.0. So just keep in mind, if you have any feedback whatsoever, please join our Discord and let us know. But yeah, so I guess we'll start with some really brief introductions. The majority of you probably already know who we are, but for those of you watching the VOD, I'm Goknak. I'm the project lead of Momentum Mod, lead developer as well. And yeah, you're probably going to hear more of my voice in this one as well, but I'm going to try to speak last, at least. So that's kind of the way that I'll do it now is if other people have kind of answers to go or like things to say first, I'll go last just so it's less of my voice overall if people kind of answer it for me. So let's, I guess, go down the list of who all is here. Feel free to introduce yourself and what you're doing, and we'll move on to our first question after that.
Well, Goknak went. I am Zofa. I am the production designer. I coordinate with the artists and the writers, as well as the software engineers. Work on the campaign, as well as work with the artists to come up with quality control.
Should we start from the top with the BLT?
Oh yeah, Bray, I guess you could go next because you're on you're on webcam,
Yeah,
and False is AFK right now, so I'll move him out here and just kind of awkwardly drag XB Man and fingerprints over. Don't worry about it. You guys are the most important, so you get to be bigger.
Yeah, so I'm Bray. I mainly do programming. I mean some mapping, but not for the team, and yeah. Short and sweet.
I'm Tom Fingerprints. I do story and art stuff. So I do some texture design, story work, and a bit of media.
I'm XB Man. I'm a mapper and occasionally do other things.
And then now we can go down the list. So BLT.
I'm BLT. I'm the new Linux programmer for Momentum Mod, but I also do other stuff that comes up coding-wise.
And I believe if Burrito or Blue, if you want to also introduce yourself, feel free. But if not, we can move over to our first question. All right, it's all good. So let's go ahead and start with the first question. Pretty hard hitter. I organized these to be really tough to really easy questions. So how are you guys doing today? Oh wait, Zofa, sorry. I did your job for you. My bad.
Too late. AYB is asking, how are you guys today?
Well, I'm doing well. It's Saturday. It's a lovely weekend. It's actually getting warm around here. You know, get to go on walks, get to get outside the house finally. But yeah, I'm doing well. Doing a lot of momentum coding every night, same as usual.
Same.
Yeah, so making good progress on specifically Conk. We got Fortress Forever's movement kind of in place, and I'm going to be pushing that soon for our playtesters to kind of rip apart, see what they like and don't like about it. So hopefully Conk implementation's almost done in terms of like movement and gameplay. Still needs HUD work and stuff, but that's, that'll come later. But yeah, that's what I've been doing, and that's how I'm doing. It's going well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I got my Momentum on Cup thing. For the occasion.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't have my momentum or cup with me today, so I lost it.
No one has one, right? Am I the only one with the? Probably.
Yeah, it's the pre-release merch.
My mom made it. It's what.
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. It's Saturday. We had a team meeting.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing a Q&A stream. It's nothing to complain about. Day off. Quite exciting day so far.
Heck yeah.
I'm doing okay. We did have a team meeting. I slept in and missed part of it, but
we record them.
Other
It's
than
okay.
that, yeah, I'll hear about it later. But other than that, it's nice out. I'm hoping my room doesn't get too hot because I don't want to turn on a fan because it fucks my mic up a little bit. But yeah.
Weird. Yeah, we've had a small momentum meeting last night, then earlier today, and now this. So it's just momentum o'clock.
It's basically my day. Yeah, it's every day for me. every o'clock is momentum o'clock. Yeah,
pretty much.
But yeah. All right. We'll move on to the next hard-hitting question. Thank you, AYB, for the well-being check.
So Korki S wants to know obligatory when.
Call back to his first one, I guess. Soon, I guess.
December 2021?
Yeah, December? Late 2021?
Is the estimate?
I think they were asking when the stream was going to happen. It's happening right now.
Right now. Mm-hmm.
I mean, in terms of progress this month, stuff's been pretty good, right? Of movement refactor stuff, some UI stuff, which is super cool. A lot of stuff towards 090 has been really progressing well. So
oh yeah,
on track at the very least. So
yeah. Thank you, Korki, for that question. It's probably going to be every single one, but it's good to keep us accountable, I guess. All right, on to the next one here.
So we have Cam asking us, how many hamsters could you fit into a cupboard?
Oh boy, it's time for the extra emotes. Where are they?
How big are the cupboards?
Humanely?
You know?
Like,
yeah, are we talking humanely here, or are we allowed to alter?
They're not too big.
I don't think it's a question of how many hamsters could you fit in a cupboard, but how many should you?
Yeah.
Can you?
We're asking the wrong question.
I don't know where you're getting all the hamsters from.
Yeah, like, do we have an infinite supply of hamsters? And how big?
For Pat, extra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a lot.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Endless supply.
Thank you, Cam, for the question here. It depends, I guess, is the official answer. I don't know. Depends who you ask, but it also depends on the conditions of the hamsters and cupboards that we're trying to fit here.
Yeah, we need dimensions.
Yeah.
And of the hamsters and the cupboards.
All right, let's move on to the next question here.
We have Hyperdan also asking obligatory SJ when.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge map. It would take quite a long time to port that one, and I guess it wouldn't really be worth all the trouble because we're in the alpha stage right now. Like, we may be making changes to entities and stuff that then we would have to revisit a whole map and then port it again. And yeah,
hopefully
please
when
don't
we make,
do it.
when we make Hammer better, then we can port it.
Yeah.
Right now, not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, we still got to implement courses too, right?
Yep. Zone refactor, which is 0.10. Yep. So yeah, there's probably some stuff there. I think it was also just a meme because this one originally came after the obligatory when question, but yeah, I didn't actually know there was a sticky jump. I guess jump when, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Super long.
All right. yeah, serious. We do have some serious questions there. I think the next one, is
We're getting them all out of the way.
no, yeah, we're just getting all of the fun ones first. Again, I organized them hard hitting first, and then easy questions later.
All downhill.
When everybody's asleep, right? It's all downhill from here. All right, but thank you, Hyperdan, for that question. We'll move on to the actual serious questions starting now.
We do have a serious question. Attakinblakjakk is asking, is there something that prevents releasing through the early access program on Steam?
So this
Awkward. Yeah.
I dealt with Steam the most out of the group. And yeah, the group knows my frustration that we had to go through with the so fun fact, we were trying to get like the Steam store page was delayed an extra month or so because we were trying to get what was it? Or sorry, no, 085 or 086 was delayed an extra month or two for no reason, because the Steam store page was just taking so long to get reviewed, and we were trying to synchronize it because it's good to have every big event kind of synchronized so that you're not doing an at everyone ping all the time. So yeah, just very fun there. The problem with early access is that because we're classified as a mod right now, which we're actually going to try to change that by 1.0. I know mod is in the name, and that's what we started as, but we aren't actually a mod. We're a standalone game. We mount existing games, but the idea is that you can technically play content in our game without mounting other games for content. And there's actually quite a lot of maps that have completely custom content that are actually pretty playable too. That don't require other games. And yeah, we don't require that you own TF2. That's only for Sticky Jump and Rocket Jump, right? For now. So yeah, we're gonna try to change that. But the main reason that we can't do early access, so there's two problems there. The first one is the mod classification preventing us from even having an early access page. When we first got onto Steam, or when we were trying to get onto Steam, we were actually classifying as early access, and we wanted to release an early access, but then we had to discuss with Steam about what the game was and clarify. But I think they still got confused as to what our game actually is. So we are going to reach out and clarify again. But as for actually releasing in the early access program, the main problem with releasing early is that we don't want to set the wrong impression. I know early access is, it's early access, right? You're buying or getting a game that is not done. It's very clearly not done. But the problem becomes people might lose interest earlier, I think, if they try a game that's broken. One of the other aspects is we're constantly wiping times too. And I don't think a lot of people would enjoy the game if they realize that they can't really play and have things matter yet, because we're changing the replay format, we're changing the zone format as well. So maps themselves are also going to be deleted and kind of reconfigured, especially when we start to implement things like the momentum asset atlas. And so in general, right, we're trying to kind of prevent it from getting too wide of a scope early on. While we do want people to play the game and test it, that'll be more closer towards 1.0 or at 1.0. We want people to give us feedback as we're developing. So that's the main thing. Early access could technically let us do that, but right now we physically actually can't. We would have to just release the game, or the mod in Steam's eyes, to actually have it be public. I know there is also the Steam playtest feature, and that's interesting, but that's not the same level of control that we'd want over giving out keys. That's kind of like you host a separate Steam page, and people can sign up to playtest, and then the developer just says, hey, I need 100 testers, and then it just gives the game to 100 people on that list, and you don't get to choose who. So you would still have to generate keys, and it gets a little weird. So that's why we're not going with that either. It's really nice right now to kind of do a manual control over who gets to play the game. It's been giving us pretty good feedback, pretty coordinated feedback as well. I feel like if we were to release and people were just like, hey, the map selector doesn't work, times 1,000, right? Times however many people try out the game, that's just going to get, it's just noise, right? And we know it's broken, right? Like that will be the response, right? The majority of the time is, yeah, we know it's broken. It already is actually kind of right now. Some playtesters are and that's why we're trying to do a more frequent release schedule of kind of just like we're fixing things as they come and just also working on bigger refactor and bigger changes like that. So that's kind of why we're not releasing early. And I mean, it is more of a personal preference too. I want the game to be at a specific state. Some other developers are more than happy with kind of having everybody playtest their game and just kind of like sitting back. But this is like my baby. I can't rush it out. I don't want people to get the wrong opinion and stuff like that. So it is more of a personal thing too. But yeah,
I think also like because it's such a like speedrunning oriented and like competitive kind of game, like having like right now is the perfect time for people to cheat and find exploits and stuff.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to play the game right now to compete for times, they're gonna have a pretty horrible time because every once in a while someone like figures out that we forgot to disable like gravity behind cheats or something like that, and then they get like a 2-second time on the maps.
Yeah.
So like,
which is what we want. Like we want people to find stuff like that right now.
Yeah.
So
that's what the testing is for right now, but it's not in a state where it's in a state where it's functional, but it's not something people would want to play like to compete yet.
Yeah.
Until we have everything ironed out.
Did anybody else have any input on kind of like the release date? Cool. All right. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Attakinblakjakk, for that question. Hopefully that answers that. It's coming. I promise. The game is coming out. I want to see it. I'm seeing this game through to, full release. So it is coming out. I promise.
Superchuck asks, would it be possible for maps to be updated post-release on Momentum?
Yeah, I'm assuming this is kind of from a concern that some maps will have like exploits found post-release. I know there's pretty funny example on Tempus where one of the maps, like I don't know how many months after it released, they found there was a dev route, which just kind of screwed up everything. And yeah, so the approach we're taking is to really focus on the testing of maps and also having like incentivize people to test maps with like points and things like that, and probably some tournaments for newer maps to test. Yeah, and then we'll also be adding some tools to make map sharing nicer, just so it's easier to test as well. Though there are some worries about that because, yeah, I mean, file transfers between people can be pretty susceptible to cheating, or I guess RC, but
yeah.
I think we have enough RCs.
The fix right now, yeah. We got a couple of backlogged things found and fixed. We do get changes, or we get fixes from Valve. So things like found in CS:GO typically trickle down to us. But it relies on Valve to actually update the partner repo and all of that. I did answer a little bit of it. We want maps to be effectively final. With heavy, what Bray said, with heavy emphasis on pre-testing, so like pre-release testing. It isn't impossible. It won't be allowed from mappers. Like mappers won't be able to update their own maps post-release. I think that would be way too abusable. But what we could do is look into what exactly needs to be fixed. If it's a glaring issue or something that completely changes the map, like the dev route found or something, we could usually update the zones or update, do a hot fix to the map to prevent those things and remove the times. But if we're looking at the things of like oh yeah, this map like has a complete, like crash or something that wasn't found, usually the map itself is typically going to be either deleted or disabled, and then it'll have to be resubmitted, gone through testing. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to get perfect maps every time. That's not going to be possible. But
Yeah.
it is going to be a process that'll let us note down things to look out for, especially if like particular mappers keep making the same mistake. We could tailor like a list of things that we apply towards reviewing specific mappers' maps. But yeah, so for the most part, no, but it depends. Like it just depends on what needs to be updated. If zones need to be updated, sure, depending on how big, right? If you're adding a new stage or something, that's ideally something that's found before it's released. But yeah, can you ask questions in chat? Absolutely. The team will be looking at them. We won't answer them right away, though. They'll either be compiled for the ending, or definitely join our Discord and ask in our Q&A live channel if you want to be on the stream here. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully that answers that. Did anybody else have any input here for this question?
I guess just that we're making it a lot easier for mappers to get testing, and that, a lot of the time if you're working on a surf map or whatever, the people testing it are going to be sort of like your friends or the people you know from such and such a Discord server that are willing to test it for you and stuff. Whilst with our system, there will be a sort of prolonged submission process where there is, I forget exactly, that we have a nice chart for it. But there'll be like several weeks where people can test your map and break it. And if revisions need to be made, then they can get made. It's just after they're actually fully added, then we want to lock stuff off as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank you, Superchuck, for this question. Hopefully that helps the answer there. Yeah, we'll move on to the next one.
Juxtapo is asking, will Momentum have any features that assist mappers in monetizing their creations?
Yeah, so because we can't do microtransactions, right? Like we can't do any like cryptocurrency sort of shit where it's like people buy maps or whatever. We can absolutely look into integrations in the form of on your profile, your Momentum profile, and then expose that through either user interface or, yeah, I mean, pretty much ideally in the user interface. Wherever people are rating maps, I think that would probably be where we could have it as well. It depends how we want to kind of set it up. Like if you want like a PayPal button on your profile, we can absolutely do that. And something to keep in mind is that the Steam subscriber agreement, sorry for getting legalese like technical here, but the Steam subscriber agreement basically outlines that you cannot sell anything you use, even our tools, even that we have a license, we can't sell maps we create, because you're using Valve licensed tools, and unless you buy a commercial license to be able to sell your BSPs and stuff like that, you can't really do that. So every map in the game is going to be free. It has to be, right? Like Valve would be very upset with us if we didn't. So we can't do it that way, but we can absolutely advertise either a PayPal button, Patreon, stuff like that, pretty easily. So mappers that have avenues to kind of accept donations, at-will donations, we've gotten the okay from Valve for our Open Collective link, which is in the description if you want to support us, because we are taking at-will donations. It's people feeling like they could help out and giving us what they think we should have. It's not soliciting money for keys. It's not giving any in-game statuses or anything. So no, you don't donate if you're asking for a key. Do not. That's not how you get a key. It's just supporting us if you like what we're doing. But yeah, for mappers in particular, we can absolutely look into kind of advertising that the mapper has a way to donate to them. So how exactly that'll go or what exactly we should support definitely let us know. I'm thinking PayPal or Patreon are kind of the two, right? It's kind of the most direct. If you stream, you'll have a PayPal button, so it's kind of the same thing there. So, or not PayPal, but Streamlabs or whatever, tip jar, right? So absolutely, but it'll be the exact same way that we accept donations. So if people like a map so much they want to support you, they can, but it's at will. So, yeah.
I also want to mention that like that kind of idea doesn't just go towards mapping content. Like when it comes to people that are also like making soundtracks, music for the game as well, we want to be able to empower them to monetize that. We usually like don't want to take ownership of the soundtrack and like monetize it ourselves or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I guess Goknak probably knows more about that than I do, but
yeah, and that's because it's not being created with source engine tools like Hammer and VBSB and stuff. So, that art aspect, gaining recognition and payment for your work. We can't solicit any microtransaction or anything like that in the game. It would be really cool too, right? If you could gain an in-game currency that like translates to, stuff, or like you get items that could be sold on the Steam marketplace, right? Or something for mapping. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'd be really cool if we could do that directly, but we can't. So for the most part, it's going to just have to be externally linked and then promoted through some UI and UX. And we would absolutely, it'd be in our best interest to help mappers kind of advertise that. So it'll be like, maybe when you beat a run or something, it could pop up like, hey, this support, did you like this map? Support the mapper, things like that, where it's just kind of there, but they have to do the initiative of, go and support at will, right? Was there any other input anybody had? All right, we'll move on to the next question. Thank you, Jux, for that question.
maybeDabest wants to know, are you guys going to be adding more maps to public leaderboards?
So,
I did talk about this previously. Yeah. I mean, the big reason we don't add too many maps is that, as I said, we are changing things like entities, and then, we had a similar, or like a situation when we changed the teleport from trigger momentum teleport to just trigger teleport, and it just broke like a bunch of teleporting, and I can't imagine how bad that would be for like if we had like 100 maps on the selector or something. So
yeah, or
it's
no
kind
clip.
of intentionally,
Yeah.
it intentionally kept very small, just so we can make breaking changes like that. And I mean, we are going to be going through a zone refactor too, pretty soon. Which, yeah, all the maps on the selector are gonna have to be revisited, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. So the kind of one-word answer is eventually. 1.0 is going to have more maps that are finalized.
Obviously.
Yeah, very clearly. We're not aiming to do any wipes post 1.0. Unless absolutely necessary. I doubt it'll get to that point. We'll have enough things in place that we could like remove individual runs or mass remove runs that are whatever. But more maps to the public leaderboards. Yeah, right now that's not the goal. But it eventually will be, right? So towards 1.0, we will be adding more and more. We're going to have a map release pool at 1.0 release. And then we're aiming around, like every week or something, we're going to be adding more maps in map drops so that we have constant content updates, bringing in maps that are like voted upon either in the Discord or just heavily requested, fan favorite maps and stuff, as well as new maps, right? Maps being created. We want to promote newer mapping experiences or mapped experiences. So yeah, absolutely, but not right now.
The map submission process we would hope would be around by that time. Hopefully that would be providing a decent amount of content for us to use as well.
Yeah. So thank you, maybeDabest, for that question. Hopefully that's satisfactory. Yeah, it's eventually. The public leaderboards, the public release, does not even have leaderboards. So hopefully that's not referencing 087, because it's very intentionally not hooked up to our site, as we're going to be changing it, so it's going to break eventually anyway. So yeah, thank you for that question. We'll move on to the next one.
I'm not sure how to pronounce their name.
Wkey.
Wkey.
Yeah.
Wkey is asking, what will the campaign look like? More like a tutorial sort of thing, or even a story mode?
Great question.
That is a great question.
Does somebody want to answer this, or should I nerd out a bit about the campaign?
I feel like Fingerprints probably has a lot to say.
I've been looking forward to the campaign questions. So it's gonna function very well as a tutorial in for those campaign game modes, the 4 game modes: rocket jump, sticky jump, surf, bunny hop. It's gonna be very accessible to beginners. There's gonna be quite a steep learning curve, because we're gonna, throughout the campaign, go to some quite high tier map, or round sort of 4 to 5-ish on the 1 to 6 scale. So it will definitely be a very, very good way to learn those game modes, but it's not going to just be a tutorial. We are going to have a story. Obviously, we're not going to reveal much about it. I think we can say that we're not going to have like NPCs and trading and, I don't know, like RPG stuff. Exactly.
Right.
We're not making it something super elaborate that's like straying a really long way from the core of the game modes, right?
Right.
What we want is to make a really, a long form, enjoyable way of playing those game modes in a more sort of organized, somewhat story driven, but way. So it's not going to be sort of, story but no gimmicks is sort of the thing. But yeah, it is going to be a full campaign with, it will be a full game that you can play.
Yeah. Sorry, we're not gonna have a character creation menu. You can't set your penis to penis size 3. I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but
we're letting a lot of people down.
we're rushing out to production, so we have to cut it.
Yeah.
People thought we were going to be setting the standard.
Picking up where Cyberpunk left off, but yeah, I think Fingerprints basically covered it. You'll get more details as we go along. We have a lot of stuff planned for the campaign, kind of showing off maybe a little bit of the gameplay of the campaign, a bit, but think more along the lines of like Gauntlet in the way. Not exactly Gauntlet. Like it's not going to be very jarring, like map cuts to like different like things. It'll have its own flow and everything, but it'll be structured almost like a Gauntlet. And I'm looking forward to it. It's I guess some general details, because these aren't going to change and they aren't story related, is I guess we could talk about the worlds, like the overall design. So we are going to have a hub and 5 worlds. So I think we have future questions on how hard it's going to eventually be to, or how hard it'll get. But that's kind of the idea, is like, we don't, like, the story side of the campaign is not going to be, it's not going to be in the way that's like, it'll prevent you from playing. The story is more or less going to be more of a discoverable one. Because I think that people that are more inclined to just kind of get an idea of what momentum is might not like having a like guided, like, oh yeah, we'll stop input and like make you watch a cutscene or something. Like it's all about speed and gameplay. So having a lot of more gameplay focused game, like campaign stuff, but then having the story side for those that are going to go and find it. A deeper story. We'll have like story, like it'll have a story, but it won't be the whole story, if that makes sense. So just leave it at there. I don't want to spoil too much, but we're making excellent progress. We had, like Fingerprint said, we had a campaign meeting earlier this week, and it was really productive. So I'm really excited. I think that we're gonna have a really unique, like, there will be, like, I guess the two endings, right? So there's the naive one and then the story ending. So yeah, I'm really pumped. We'll move on because I don't want to spoil. But thank you Wkey for asking about that.
We're gonna have to make Goknak sign a non-disclosure agreement.
I know, right? You're gonna have to gag
Pretty
me.
much.
Bound and gagged. Can't talk about the baby that's gonna be the campaign. It's gonna be so good. But yeah, thank you for that question, Wkey. We'll move on to the next one.
The next question is Yohaun asking, what tier or skill level would campaign maps be, or multiple difficulties as a possibility? Are multiple difficulties a possibility?
Yeah.
So at least for surf and probably jump, the problem with having multiple difficulty settings would just be that, like, it's kind of hard to make a surf map like just more difficult by arbitrarily changing the settings. You would have to change basically the entire map. Like if you were to give someone a bunch more speed, like that would make it easier, but also like the map would be super awkward because nothing's spaced properly. So like I think it's, in terms of multiple difficulties, we would want to have like a gradual raise in difficulty throughout the campaign, but I don't know if we would have multiple settings you could play the campaign at.
Yeah.
I just think
definitely. Okay, sorry.
Pulse is back.
Hi, I'm Pulse.
Yeah.
I'm one of the campaign leads for the jump modes. So yeah, for the multiple difficulties, I mean, we're gonna have built-in, I guess, speedrun strats, right? So things that are inherently harder to do, but you can do it and go faster. The campaign isn't entirely designed for like as a tutorial or to teach players, but also to be speedrun friendly.
Yep.
Because we do want to see people play the campaign not just once, but over and over and get better times on the campaign. So definitely designing around being able to do things that are harder, things that you wouldn't be able to do if it was your very first playthrough of jump or surf or whichever game mode. And as you get better, there are more things that you can unlock, I guess, things that you can do to, so the runs won't exactly be the same each time. It'll be different. You'll be able to do more things as you get better, which I think is cool.
Yeah, do faster things too. Yeah.
Yeah. For the tier and skill level of campaign maps, I can only really say for jump because I'm not that experienced for surf and beyond, but I would say highest level, maybe like mid tier 3 or high tier 3, because for movement games it's pretty hard, honestly. Like you can't just pick up jump, like rocket jump, and beat a tier 3 map in like a day. It's not like other typical campaigns where you just play through, right? So we don't want our game to become this really difficult thing where it's like you hit a point where it starts hitting tier 3, tier 4. And I would imagine a lot of newer players would be really off-put by having to spend hours on a single level because you have to hit a speed shot into something, and it's like that's not trivial.
Right. Yeah.
Most players, I think, like even if you're playing consistently, it takes like over a month, really.
Yeah.
To be like tier 4 level. So we want to avoid having areas that just feel like you're stuck. So like really large choke points in the campaign where like, all right, you have to do one specific technique and you have to sort of just learn it like a sync. I mean, that takes already in itself is pretty difficult to do. So it's going to be a interesting level design challenge. To create something that is a little less methodical than typical jump maps, where it introduces new mechanics like each level, and then you sort of hit a point where you're stuck there and you just have to do it or not. We have some ideas, but
we have quite a gradual skill curve in that it's going to be
Yeah, definitely.
we're going to the 5 worlds. Do we want to say how many maps per world? Are we saying that?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, around 10.
Yeah.
Or,
So we're aiming for 5 stages, 5 worlds. So
yeah. Sorry.
50 stages in total. So it's as opposed to your sort of casual jump map or whatever. Then again, I've never played on like what's it, Jump Academy or whatever, which I guess is really long apparently. But we can do a fairly sort of gradual skill curve, and we want to make players improve, right? Especially in the if you want to really enjoy and get the most out of the campaign, you're going to be needing to play all 4 modes, right? To do the real, like, if you're really serious about it, you're going to be doing those 4 modes. Getting to sort of tier 3 to low tier 4 level, in those 4 modes is really tough. I mean, obviously, there's some similarities between like surf and bunny hop and kind of rocket jump and sticky jump, but
Yeah.
it's going to be there. There's only like a handful of people that like I know of that are going to be able to casually do all 4 of those modes, right? Like within the community. It's a decent number. Like some jumpers are good at surf and bunny hop, but none of it's going to be like trivially easy, but not something that is just banging your head against a wall.
Yeah.
But in terms of like why, I think there is like a sort of philosophical reason why we don't want to have multiple difficulties. In the games that have like a difficulty slider where you can just arbitrarily make stuff easy if you want to beat it a certain amount of time, tend to just be less rewarding and less good. And
yeah,
I don't know. I find difficulty sliders and stuff in games kind of depressing. So even if we could like have some clever system that like extends the length of a surf ramp or something like dynamically, I don't know, like
recompiles the map live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just with how level design in the game mode works,
right?
We really can't just like.
Well, technically we can't do it, but also we wouldn't want to. Yeah.
It really wouldn't be good. So yeah.
But of course, with all the modes, there'll be specific routes where if you do want to go super fast and challenge yourself and get good times, you can do that, and that's going to be really hard and really challenging because doing 50 maps in a row really fast and doing those optimally like is a slog and is a challenge. So
and I guess just to kind of touch with the difficulty slider, the modes themselves are inherently difficult. Like there are learning curves, and if anything, a Dark Souls, right, kind of proves like games like that where the difficulty is kind of just in the gameplay. There's no difficulty slider, right? I mean, there's like modes that you can like restrict yourself to, but for our game, right, the platforming itself should be the difficulty, and it's just balancing that appropriately. And another thing to note is that Tier 3 is the main campaign. We are planning to have a hard mode DLC that goes up to maybe Tier 4, Tier 5. And keep in mind that this is on the new scale, or maybe, I guess, maybe we're thinking of the old scale right now. We might be the old scale. Yeah, so Tier 4, Tier 5, hard mode DLC. That will kind of wrap up the story as well. So we will have that aspect as well, to where there is like a hard mode, but it's like you have to beat everything in the campaign first. So like we definitely don't want to handicap it, but we also want it to be completable. That is very completable and speedrunnable, and then the difficulty arising from how well can you do that speedrun. Because I guess some other confirmed things that I guess we could talk about. There is going to be a speedrun mode. So, the normal playthrough that you'll be doing is like save progress, and like you spawn in at the hub and you can go back and do the worlds that you were working on. But when it comes to like the speedrun mode, it's like resettable. You start from the start every time. You could either do any percent, 100% for the mode. And and so
it's gonna be so good to watch.
It's gonna be very fun to watch.
I cannot wait to see that.
And then the overarching modes of like on speedrun.com, all 100% campaigns or something, or all any percent campaigns, because like we'll do individual campaign leaderboards and stuff, and that's where the statistics really matter. So if you do get world record in all 4 categories, it'll show up on our leaderboards and on speedrun.com, that kind of thing. But we want there to be an outside community to be able to foster kind of that competition to draw people in. But yeah, so yeah, it's definitely going to be something that's just going to inherently be difficult, I think, for a lot of people as they learn the modes and then apply themselves. And yeah, we don't want to make it too frustrating. We're going to be very careful to design our music, our level design, so that it's very forgiving, right? Like, your playthrough of the campaign doesn't hinge on, like, I guess another spoiler, your normal playthrough of the campaign is not going to even have a timer, right? It's going to be almost like an adventure sort of game of sorts. So the speedrun mode will have the timer. So you won't be pressured, right? At least not directly, right, by the timer. You might be pressured internally or something, right? Your own skill, wanting to be better, but that's, per person, and that'll be fun to experience, I guess. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to see how, because one of the things we're going to be testing is once we get kind of the campaign laid out, we will actually want to bring straight up, like, I've only played Halo or COD people into the campaign and see how they do. Just see how far they get, like, given like a bit of time, and just see like what mode they kind of, might gravitate towards, and see how far they get. Because we will be doing that testing. We're going to be seeing how well people... Because if they get to World 3, World 4, and maybe it starts to get like really, really difficult for them, that's by design. We want them to come back to it and finish it maybe when they're more comfortable. Because the campaign's not going to be 100 billion maps. That's the community side, right? You can go and play any tier map. We'll try to convey the idea of like each world kind of has its own difficulty tier. It might not be directly in the game because that'd be a little meta, but that's the idea, right? Is each world kind of builds onto a tier. If we have 5 worlds, we're getting up to tier 3-ish. So, like kind of like think it's like tier and a half tier, like kind of moving its way up to that tier towards the end. So yeah, and I think people that know what they're doing are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. It won't be something that they can just sit down and beat in like 10 seconds. Hopefully, right? I hope there's enough intrigue with how we're doing the story, how we're doing the gameplay, that people play all of it, hopefully. But we'll see. I mean, yeah, I can't doubt world record holders like Levi. I think there's going to be people that are extremely skilled that will beat it very quickly. Yeah. And some people will also have that mentality of like, the campaign just came out, I'm going to beat it as fast as possible, right? We can't stop that, right? We're not going to be able to. So obviously there will be people that will kind of rush through it, but that's also why the story is kind of more of a explorable element. Is like, yeah, if they want to do that, they can. But hey, that's not everything, and we'll make that clear as well. So, yeah. But thank you, Yohaun, for that. Did anybody have any other input for it? Cool. We'll move on to the next one, also from Yohaun.
Yohaun has a follow-up question about the campaign, and is asking, will the campaign maps be made solely by the Momentum team, or will community mappers be recruited to create gameplay or visuals? How do you choose mappers?
Yeah, so what's really nice about this game being like a passion project, it's kind of about the consolidation of like existing games or game modes, is that pretty much everybody on the team is part of the community. So, I mean, people are taken directly from the community, like Falls from Jump, Ox from B-Hop, XB from Surf, right? So it's really more so like that the people we already have and the people we will pick up in the future are themselves a part of the community.
Yeah, and we're going to be bringing more people into the mapping kind of team to work on the campaign closer to and after 1.0. I think Ox is kind of in control of that right now, and when he's for like kind of weeding out mappers and deciding who actually should be on the team.
No. Yeah, and so I mean, we will be recruiting more mappers, sorry, to help out. But we also have a level of quality that we need to ensure we're gonna hit. We want people to be able to see momentum as a way to express and kind of give their best towards something, because this is like, the campaign's huge. Like, we want it to be huge. We want it to be this core feature, because servers can't have a campaign.
Yeah.
It'll be jank if they do, but they can't really have a campaign. So that is something that we really want to focus on, making the the highest level of quality we can. And so with that, we need highest level quality mappers that know their stuff about the game modes, right? And so when it comes to choosing, it'll be more or less a vetting process, right? We want that inspiration. I mean, we'll take. I'm sure we could take newer mappers that might not have the most experience in the world, but still people that would be very dedicated towards applying themselves towards using momentum entities, but also just applying themselves and becoming better and working in a team. That's another thing. Like, a lot of mappers don't work in teams very often, so collaboration mappers are probably going to be more sought after because they're used to working together usually. It's probably a little more, I'm not too familiar with collaboration processes, but we want that. You're going to be collaborating. You're going to have a team of artists that can give you assets. We're going to have people that can go, like, we're going to have different passes as we go through the maps. Like, we'll have gameplay blocked out, dev textured, and then we'll have a pass that kind of implements the initial art for the world. And then we'll have another pass tweaking gameplay with the art assets and, like, maybe, any ideas that kind of come up from the art pass. And then one last kind of art pass and then a story pass at the end. That's kind of like the way it'll go. And, we need mappers that'll be able to handle that kind of workflow. A lot of mappers tend to make visuals themselves as well. And that's not bad. We want that, but it needs to follow a similar theme. We can't have maps that have wildly different designs, right? Like, you can't have, like, this one world map that, like, doesn't fit the world design at all or anything. And usually, right, having just a centralized and focused art direction is going to take care of that, right? We're going to have a pool of textures and models and things like that all of these mappers can take advantage of in their mapping. So it won't be too hard for that to kind of be enforced, but at the same time, right, we need that to be kind of known. It's not the mapper showing off a map, it's the mapper working towards the overall campaign with the team. And so that's what we're looking for. So it'll be more of a formal process to bring on people. The plan right now, I think this is the last campaign question. Let me. Oh, nah, maybe not. The main idea is that we're trying to solidify story and art direction first. We originally, like, I guess a callback to that generation question we had, previous generations, Gen 2, I think, was like the initial, it's like a surf and bunny hop campaign pass. We didn't have any idea what was going on, and it wasn't really well organized, and that's basically my fault. But at the same time, we've learned from that, and we're going to, for this campaign, make sure we're taking the appropriate steps beforehand. We're going to have an art direction. We're going to have, the story nailed down. We have everything we need. We just need maps. And then that will be when we start to reach out and bring on people, people that may have left before as well could also come back, hopefully, right? I hope that, people see how serious we are about it and can join us and help us out. Because it's the same thing. It's like, it's all going to be passion based. It has to be. So that's what we're going to be looking for.
One thing I'd like to say as well is that not like ideally mappers would be comfortable with the game modes that we're covering in the campaign.
Yeah.
But even if you weren't, even if you were just like really good with lighting or really comfortable just doing some of the handiwork that needs to get done, like we'll always have a lot of stuff to do that isn't just designing gameplay.
Right. And like obviously, like a lot of there are sort of select people in the community that have very good reputations for being very, very good mappers on for those specific game modes, and we want to have as many of those people as possible, of course. And Orcs and False are organizing a lot of that. In terms of like, that doesn't mean that as long as those people are the ones, the people that are really experienced rocket jump mappers are the ones making the rocket jump maps and so forth. That doesn't mean that they have to be doing all the same detailing on that map, right? They can be doing just the dev style designs, and then other people that are keen that aren't necessarily as experienced with a specific game mode. I mean, I've never really published a map for either of those 4 game modes, but I'll definitely try and do some detailing work.
Yeah.
And obviously, in terms of other bits of visuals like texture design and modeling and stuff, will be
and like optimization, stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's lots to work on. That's not just gameplay design.
So and I think that's one of the reasons it is so important that we're not going into it sort of all guns blazing like sort of happened supposedly in like the previous generation. I wasn't here then.
Yeah.
Where it was just okay, everyone go and make some maps, and then we'll join them together or something.
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
you need to really appreciate the gravity and the sort of difficulty of what we're trying to do. Where if anyone's doing the math, right, we've got 4 game modes, 5 worlds, 10 stages per world, plus probably other stuff. Sorry, right. So it's over 200 core maps essentially, or core stages. That's a lot of work, right? And a lot, like, and each of those having different passes, having to sort of collaborate on that, work like on the same VMF at the same time. That'll be fun. Like, it's a really big ask. So I don't know quite where I was going with that, but yeah, there will be a lot of sort of different opportunities for certain skill sets and stuff. And I mean, the core team right now is a big fun sort of mishmash of different people with different skills and stuff.
Yeah.
I've got like very limited skills in a lot of things. That's how I got on the team. But there are some people like genuine experts and stuff. And
But we'll move on. Thank you, Yohaun, for those two questions about the campaign. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one.
Our next question is Imbellis asking, what game modes will the campaign include? Why not the other modes?
Yeah, so we do. We're planning surf, b-hop, rocket jump, sticky jump. Maybe those shrimp.
We had shrimp, but it's only a campaign mode.
Yeah.
That's an Easter egg game mode.
I mean, it's mainly because those are the biggest, or at least those are the modes where we have the most mappers active. And I mean, for future campaigns, like, we may, but it's hard to commit to something that's so far down the line. And I saw like a question from TrickSurf actually that's like pretty on the nose about asking about custom campaigns too. We might want to talk about that right here.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all about mapping effort, right? What Finger said, we have 200 maps that need to hit a specific level of quality and match and meet the story as well. We could do more game modes, and the way we're writing the story is accounting for that in a way, but it just relies on effort. So those 4 are the most popular.
It would spread us so thin doing more. I think it would be just
We're already doing a lot.
Yeah. And what Bray touched on there or what TrickSurf was even asking, custom campaigns, absolutely. Like, I think that would be really fucking cool. Like, having like your own kind of like playlist style of maps, but like, not be limited to one BSP to do, a map or something. But we'll have to see kind of how it'll fit in, like the UI and the UX about that, like see how you get to them. And then also, we don't want it to be mixed with our campaigns in the same way of like, how there's like really high quality Left 4 Dead 2 campaigns, but then there's also not like we don't want that mixed in with like, oh yeah, the official campaigns, and then Joe's first map as a campaign or something, right? Shout out to Joe.
We're very happy for people to use all our assets.
Yes.
All the cool campaign stuff we work, cool PBR textures, models, stuff like that.
Yes.
That is absolutely up for grabs for people if they want to work with those.
And that's the thing too, is if we get KZ mappers flooding in that would actually rally behind it and want to work on it, we could do it, right? We could add, a fifth mode, or no, yeah, a fifth campaign mode, and do it. It just relies on effort, and that's something we can ask for as well. The main thing too to consider, Titanfall 2 has a brilliant campaign already. Parkour, for example, is going to be based on that. I would more or less want you to play Titanfall 2. It's a really well-crafted campaign, and it has the movement, right? Half-Life 2, it's a really fun speedrun, right? It has AHOP. So that's why we're not considering parkour and AHOP. Trick Surf is a spin-off mode of Surf, so it's not really... It also can't really have its own campaign in a way. But yeah, and then Defrag, yeah, it's the same thing with the effort. So like KZ and Defrag, kind of seeing what effort spawns from the 1.0 kind of release and kind of querying what mappers want to work on. Oh yeah, and sorry, Conk as well. So it is possible, but it again, it's 200 maps with the 4 modes. It's another 50 maps per mode. And if we find enough mappers that want to do that, absolutely. Because it'll be its own kind of self-maintained team, and we'll have our own standards of like, quality and assets that you can use. But it's just effort. So if we don't get as many conch mappers or, something like that, yeah, it's so whatever. But we can always add the custom campaign, the custom conch campaign into the game as DLC as well. We are going to have kind of the hard mode DLC. I keep calling it DLC. I think it's just going to be a game update, right? I don't know if it makes sense to really do DLC as a free game unless you're freaking Ark or something. But anyway, shots fired, I guess. But yeah, so the main thing is like all of these campaigns could be added later, right? So as actual campaigns. Or we could also just support the custom campaign, like kind of browser or like workshop style sort of thing where you can browse them. We'll see how it kind of goes. But for now, these 4 modes, the story is accounting the fact that there's 4, but potentially more. But yeah. Oh, Zofa, you aren't mod? Hold on, let me fix that. Yeah, so unless Twitch chat died for me? Okay, I don't... Sorry. Anyway, back to this. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Was there anything else that I might have missed?
I think we're good. And I think that's all the campaign questions at large.
Okay.
We've got through the whole slog of them.
Tried to group them, right? I tried to be better with the questions and grouping and all of that. So let's go ahead and move to the next question here from Samuel.
Our next question is by Samuel asking, how will tournament play work, and will there be game support for them, as well as will there be a unique momentum style that is consistent throughout all the modes?
Oh yeah. I can take this one, but
pretty loaded question.
Yeah, there's like 4 in here, but I can get them all. Did somebody want to take this, or should I? Okay, I'll take it. So tournaments are more or less going to be embedded through the game or through the website. They might start off in the website. We might add an easy way to start one through the game or something. But the way that they'll work is absolutely there will be game support for them. Surf's up, surf's upside down, things like that. Absolutely. We would love to have native UI that makes, what's kind of commonplace between these tournaments. And just native support in terms of like what kind of shows up on the UI and like being able to switch to the maps and stuff easily. Absolutely. 100%. So tournaments in general are going to be primarily map based, right? And because we're not one server doing one game mode, we can actually do multiple game modes inside of the tournament. They can, like, the idea is Surf's Up can exist, but and I think I answered this in the previous stream, but we can actually look higher up and say, like, do a momentum's up of sorts, right? Of having like multiple game modes and having people just see, like overall who's the best among all these maps in a wide map pool of different game modes. So for the most part, tournament style, I mean, there's two kind of main competitive ways to do it. There's the 1v1 race, which is you will both start at the synchronized start time, and whoever beats the map first wins. It's not as exciting. If you fail once, you kind of lose, right? So it's just like, it's edge of your seat until somebody loses, right? Or fails, which is basically an automatic lose. Or it's Surf's Up style. You get a set time, and you have like 30 to however long. I mean, it could be configured by the tournament owners. You get like 30 minutes to grind your best like time on a map, or course or stage or something. We could allow a lot of like customization on what actually is being ground. So if there's like a hard bonus, for example, you could go and do bonus for facility, right? Stuff like that, right? Like you could have that option to kind of do that as one of the like things in the tournament, or you could have it be map based, like, okay, beat the main map track. So yeah, it'll be pretty much set up through like the website at first, because it'll just be easiest to kind of organize it. But you invite the players, right? There will be you will assign who's playing, the tournament owners, right? It's not just going to be kind of haphazard, like, okay, there's only 2 people in the server and like you got to spectate the right one. And so you set a start, like you set a start time when both players are ready, and then it sets basically a time in our server that like looks at when you do runs. And so runs that are submitted within that time frame are valid. And so whenever you get a run submitted, you then network that over to the like the tournament owner or the spectator, right? And it like pops up that time for your you in the UI, and so that's how they'll be tracked. And then also on our website, right, it'll be tracked there in the official tournament page. But in game, it'll show up in the UI. There'll be UI for it, like the leaderboards and stuff will change to be a specific tournament leaderboard kind of thing, showing who, the runs of the players in that session, so you can see all the PBs they've done in that time. And yeah, and I mean, I don't know like specific implementation detail quite yet, like how the UI is going to look or anything like in particular, but absolutely the like it should be pretty consistent throughout every mode, because this kind of is more of an overarching tool that tournament owners that just it doesn't even have to be an official like org or whatever. It's like whoever wants to start one. So clans can do them. Individual players can start one. You kind of have to like set it up and then invite the other player, and if there's other players, you set it up through the website, you invite them there, and then they'll confirm through that whether or not they're attending, and then you kind of organize it as is, right? So it could be as small as 2 players just doing like a kind of like best of 3, best of 5, whatever bracket, or you could have technically unlimited, right? Like it's not limited to a server. It's not 32 players in the same spot grinding the same map. It could be hundreds, right? Like the nice thing about map releases is we could do a map release tournament, right? Where we have like bracket style, like who's getting the best times, like overall, like, and just kind of bracket style it over the weekend or something. So I mean, there's a lot of potential for our tournaments to kind of expand more and include more. Yeah, like map release parties, basically, right? Where it's like a tournament, just you're, competing, but like you're playing the map in just like these regular rounds. We'd have cosmetics, right, tied into that tournament winner, badges and stuff for your profile. A lot of stuff like that. So I honestly think that, this is not all finalized. It's just rough ideas. It's definitely a secure yes. They're going to be in the game, and it's we want to support them as best as we possibly can. So make sure you're in the Momentum Discord. We'll be reaching out for like input on how they work, right? And how people want them to work if they don't work that well or something. So yeah, definitely hang out with us and give us feedback on it. But I think honestly we'll have something pretty good here. Am I missing anything? Did anybody want to add anything there? All right, cool. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Samuel, thank you for that question. We'll move on to the next one. I think it's also related to tournaments or times, I guess. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what people end up doing in terms of tournaments and see like if they get huge, right? Because they can, right? They're only limited by the site. So if the site says, if we have like technically an upper limit of like 32,000 players, right? Like we could get really ridiculous with like the limits and stuff. So
I started saying something when I was muted. I was hoping no one noticed, but yeah, I think like just the community size of stuff with tournaments are going to be amazing. Like obviously, there's been a sort of concern with people over like how good the like sort of not having the sort of standard dedicated server model or whatever. Like how sort of good are the sort of community sided bits of the game going to be? Tournaments, I think, are going to be amazing for that. They're just going to be so much fun for people to be involved with. I think we'll get people really, really excited. So yeah.
And I don't want to throw this word around like it's like a buzzword or anything, but there legitimately could be esports involved with it, right? Like it could be, right? Like that's the thing, is like how big it gets or something. It's a free-to-play game, right? The model
did incredible.
Yeah. And
like, it did so well for viewership.
Right?
So anything we can do to support that, like
yeah.
Obviously that's Kurt's baby, not ours, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it won't be a dev doing that, but I mean, that would be awesome. So, yeah, I like absolutely tournaments and just supporting them as much as possible, making spectating better, having picture-in-picture for spectating. Servers can't do that unless you have two captures, right, independently. So having in-game UI that kind of helps with the spectating side of things, so that people can like also just spectate things happening live too. They don't have to do it through stream. They could actually literally join, like, well, I guess not join the lobby, but it would be like streamed to them and they could watch and like picture in picture and stuff. So yeah, lots of fun stuff with tournaments for sure. All right, we'll move on from that question over to Krooked's.
Krooked asks, will there be two sorts of records for community servers, as in world records and server records?
Yeah, so this is touching on the dedicated server question from the previous stream as well, from stream number 1. Yes, so the dedicated servers will have hooks into runs being submitted by players on them. So whenever a player gets like a time on the server, they can hook into it and cache it and store it locally, right? So the idea there is that, yeah, absolutely, all of the runs that you submit, it has to be through our site. It won't go into the server and then the server submits it. It's going to go through our site, but the dedicated server will be able to listen to it and have a callback, and then also be able to show server cited like records and stuff. So absolutely. Yes. So just keep that in mind. Everything you do in Momentum that is officially submitting anywhere is to our website. It gets stored in our website, so all the progress and stuff like that is through our website. But if you are connected to a dedicated server, you will also see your time hopefully submitted and stored there. I guess it depends on what the server owner does, right? With that, so we'll see. But yeah, so yes, I guess the one-word answer for that. Yeah, is there any info people want to add here?
I think it's probably pretty important to also point out that dedicated server doesn't mean that movement or any kind of input you do is in any way connected to that. It's really just like the term is really used because it kind of emulates the experience you get on a dedicated server where you have like the server-based leaderboards and stuff like that.
Yes, very good point. Yeah, dedicated servers are more like bigger lobbies with more integration with our site. Well, there's, I think, actually another question in the future here that that talks about them too. So we'll probably go more in detail about that. But yeah, so ideally that answers that. Yeah, you won't have different movement I guess, like community servers. If we allow that, it won't submit to our official boards. So that will be where we do, okay, so the server is going to facilitate kind of storing the time there because it's unofficial. But if we have, official like maps and stuff like that, it'll submit to our site as well. Because obviously, right, like we don't want to trust random servers submitting runs on players' behalves or anything like that. We want to support kind of like a callback system in place for that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. Hopefully that answered that. Thank you for the question, Krooked.
So our next question is Boshi asking, will there be different leaderboards for different ticks? I'm assuming different tick rates, not the ticks that you could catch outside.
yeah. The blood sucking ticks, yes, absolutely. No. Yeah, so
the impression that was a run flag.
Yes.
Kind of deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've talked much about them before.
Yeah. I actually don't know if we also have a question about run styles either. But yes, so there will be different leaderboards for different common tick rates. The task leaderboard will also submit your run alongside what tick that you end up doing it for. So it'll use this system as well, but have more of a kind of direct like column, I guess, for it that you can filter by. The main thing is that tick rates can get a little fickle with like if you go in between like common ones, right? Like, is that like the new meta or so? Like if people go to like 86 tick or 87 tick, right? Like, so like we'll have common ones, 100 tick, 85, 64, and 66. And obviously the default for each mode is set per mode. So bhop 100, surf 66, kind of set there, but we'll support it in the sense that like it'll have its own leaderboard. It won't obviously give you rank points. It will give you XP. We can do that. We can have it just give XP and store the time. But just like run styles are going to be run flags as well. It's whenever you're doing the run, it's like a modifier to your run that just gets uploaded with the run. And then you can filter by that on the leaderboard. So you can have technically whatever leaderboard you want if you filter for the right thing. But by default, like ranked stuff is the default settings. So, backwards, half sideways, stuff like that. We'll definitely have like the leaderboard filters for that, but they won't be default, if that makes sense. Like they won't show up by default, but it is something that you can filter by. 1000 tick, absolutely, right? That's like the task level of like, yeah. Yeah. Was there any other input for this question? Thank you, Boshi or Boshi. Hopefully it's one of those. Sorry for butchering, but thank you for that question. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one.
Next ones.
Oh, next ones. Yeah, we got a twofer.
Got a 2-in-1 here. Newjuls. I'm just gonna go with that. Newjuls. Asking, okay, but what about VR? And Patty following up with VR support.
Yeah, so Source One has very limited like VR support. Like I think we've had Engine Access for 6 months now, and I've only really run into it like a couple times. Like it doesn't seem like there's too much. It would be pretty monumental task to do. Like I don't know if it would be like harder than like rewriting Hammer, but it would kind of be around there, very difficult, would take many months to do. And yeah, there's just a lot that takes precedence over that. And even then, does it really make sense to have VR in a game where you're flying around at like 100K? Like
it would be a completely different game.
I would just vomit playing B-Hob.
We'd get sued for grievous bodily harm.
You would break your neck trying to strafe.
Yeah.
It's a good way to stretch the neck and then eventually break it. Yeah. The momentum suit that you have to wear in order to freaking do it. So yeah, that's the thing. So VR in the game, no. Hard no. VR spectating, VR exploration in the sense that maybe not even in the game, but as a standalone app, maybe. actually. So for those that are familiar, and actually if somebody wants to get it, like if Hex or somebody in chat wants to get it, there is a replay spectating WebGL kind of viewer thing. It's really, really cool. But at the same time, it's very expensive in terms of bandwidth to host everything for it. Like maps, like an 80 megabyte map becomes 800 megabytes of like storage for just the map data related to it. We didn't look too much into like compressing it. There's probably a better way to do it. You could probably do that all client side and cache it locally or something. So that exploration could be done in something like Unity, right? That takes that kind of rendering tech, implements it into a standalone kind of executable, and then yeah, we have this kind of system or some kind of tool that lets you view it in VR in that. And that way you can use Steam VR natively in Unity, and then you can have the replay playback using that tool. That's very, very cool, but very expensive and very, very bandwidth heavy to host. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I could see that that's maybe where VR kind of plays in. You kind of just are the camera moving along and you spectate. But gameplay, no. Like in the game, no. It's just we're designing UX for, you know, desktop. That's also why we're not doing controller support, right? So like our UX, the gameplay itself, it's not very possible. And it's just motion sickness to the extreme, right? So no, but definitely VR spectating is something to consider if that's desired. I know VR is very cool, but yeah, just for this game, not really. Not really. But yeah, definitely looking into it maybe for spectating. Something like that. VR hammer. Just kidding. That'll make you projectile vomit. Just not due to motion sickness. All right.
It's already bad enough.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Newjuls and Patty, for asking about VR support. It comes up, but yeah, not very practical. It's funny to meme about, but spectating maybe. But we'll move on.
On to our next question by Lemin Lemin asking thoughts on adding a map of the day competition daily like Trackmania.
Hell yeah. I mean, things like that to encourage people to play are just quite awesome. I don't know if it would be exactly that, but definitely things that encourage people to play more for like cosmetic points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I probably has much more big plans than I...
No, you hit it. It's might not be exact. I'm not familiar too much with how Trackmania does it, so I'll have to see. But yeah, absolutely. Things that motivate playing particular maps of the day that we could look at statistics and see how many players are playing specific maps and promote maybe lesser known maps or lesser played maps, because there will be, you know, thousands eventually. So having that kind of level of exposure, a featured, right? Kind of featured block in the map selector. I think even the mockup has this. So it'll cycle every day. It could cycle every day. We also want to look into maybe map release tournament style thing. So those will be kind of the featured maps for that kind of weekend. But during the week, kind of having maybe a challenge or maybe just bonus XP for playing the map of the day, right? Bonus cosmetic XP. Absolutely. That actually wouldn't even be that difficult now that I think about it, because it's just the leaderboard storing it in some table, and then, or sorry, the website storing it in some database table, and then just when you submit, we check that table and see if it's the same map ID, and if it's not, then whatever. But like, yeah, absolutely, for sure. I'd love to do it. I need to see how I need to play Trackmania. I've watched Kurt and others play it. I want to play it. Trackmania seems like a really dope ass game.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I need to see what they do in terms of competition, because yeah, if there are ideas from Trackmania that we could maybe yoink no, or be inspired by, right? We could try to incorporate. That'd be great. But yeah, cool. All right. So we'll move on. Thank you, Lemon, for that question.
Lumia asks, What has the Momentum dev team done to ensure that the project can continue if key people disappear?
Happened before, huh?
Right. Yeah, for like before Gen 1. Well, okay, so yeah, the lull in development that happened for Gen 1 was me just busy with life stuff. So, it is a realistic possibility, right? Life is very interesting and can go in unexpected directions at any time. So the main thing is, right, from the years of working on this game and seeing people come and go, I've almost, maybe unintentionally or maybe it's intentional and it's kind of served us best and hasn't been challenged yet. I've mainly taken over kind of running the core things. So Steam, pushing to Steam, the Steam store page, the Momentum Twitter, Momentum YouTube, actually, I think we have a couple of other teammates on there. So it is heavily reliant on me. But at the same time, I want this game to happen, right? Like it's not like I feel like if I don't show enough motivation publicly or just towards the game at all, the team could very easily see that and see me doing that, like just not caring about the game and be like, why should I care, right? Like it's an extremely important thing that I'm as motivated as possible to get this game out. And I absolutely am. I'm not forcing myself to work on the game or do anything like that. But at the same time, yeah, life is unexpected and unexpected things could pop up or happen. And so it is something that I do want to actually start to expand. I do want to expand the access to Steam to be able to push builds, because eventually we will start to kind of have that need to, I'm not online and maybe there's a bug fix or something that needs to be pushed immediately. We could very easily set it up to where that's the case. Being able to have more of a like social media team that's more in charge of the social media side, and I just like the team just kind of comes up with like events and stuff to post to it, but it's more among a team as opposed to just on me. I write the blog posts and stuff like that. So like all of that kind of stuff, just kind of taking all of that weight off of me would be really great. But at the same time, it also helps motivate me in a way. Cause like, yeah. And I guess what I was saying before is like, I've maybe inadvertently given myself this because I've relied on other people before and they've left. And so that doesn't bode well, right? Because this question has happened, right? Key people have disappeared. And then it turns into, oh crap, like what do we do? And so to, maybe inadvertently solve that by being the most motivated person working on the game and doing all of this, maybe. But I do want to start to expand out and kind of have more people help out where possible. It needs to also meet my quality of standard. Like I'd like to actually move back away from doing media stuff, right? Focus more on dev. Long time ago, like probably over a year or two ago, I think I even talked with the team about that, of like it can be a lot to do like blog posts and stuff. And just like it's taking away dev time. It's like I sometimes don't want to do it because I feel like maybe not enough people read them. Like stuff like that where it's like all this effort and it's like it could be done by somebody else that is more specialized in it, that could collect more media because maybe I don't know how to write good blog posts or something. So for the most part, I do want to incorporate more people into the core processes. I own the domain, the website, the VPS that the website's hosted on. I kind of own all of that. I think that, yeah, I mean, it's really morbid to think about, right? Like, what happens if I disappear or something like that? I try not to think about that because I don't think I could ever really picture that happening without it being either a complete accident or completely, out of my control. So for the most part, I do want to start to incorporate maybe some backup protocols of like, yeah, I'm hospitalized or something, again, it's very morbid to talk about, but like if something like that happens where I'm physically unable to do anything, right, what happens? So I do want to have kind of backup stuff where, yeah, I mean, that also means choosing kind of a successor, right, of like a lead if the worst comes to happen. But it is important because this project is important. It's more important than me, that's for sure. I don't want it to come across as like this project lives and dies by me, because that's a very real threat too, right? Of like if I do somehow disappear or something, yeah, right? Like you can't update the site. You would have to like I don't know, right? Like it would have to either be like a confirmed death or something, right? Something like that to where this is a really dark question. I just like I'm going down a dark road with this question, but the main thing is like, yeah, absolutely. I would want to make sure that there's enough resources and backups in place to where if something did happen to me, there's a way to go forward, right? There's a release, we can still release updates to the game. The website can point to the same VPS. I kind of want to share access to these resources with key people. I think like Hona, for example, given access to the main front end website so that we can update, things if I'm gone. Yeah, just things like that. So we'll see. I just need to kind of go through people on the team engage, right? Because yeah, I've had it in before. Like it used to be not just me working on the game, right? And working at the level that I am of like, kind of Gen 1 everybody had access to the Steam page, everybody had access to, the website and stuff like that. But now it's like locked down because it's like first of all, I don't want to trust the wrong person, but I also I've just been burned before in the past. So it's kind of part of that.
I think joining Chaos as well probably helps a little bit. It puts more onto like continuous integration and kind of on their end controlling access, where it's not all coming down to you doing all that.
Yeah, right. And so opening that to like, yeah, any Momentum dev could push an update, and then just giving all the Momentum core devs access to the Steam page to actually push it live to playtesters. Yeah, I could do that. And then giving more team members also access to the store page to make edits and stuff. Yeah, that'd be great. So kind of opening more of that would be awesome. Take a lot of weight off of me, but also be a backup protocol of if I'm gone and someone needs to take over. Hopefully not. I'll knock on wood, but it's life. COVID wasn't a thing until last, like year or two, almost, year and a half ago now. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, for the most part, I guess like, yeah, there's not really a concise way to answer this. I am kind of the core like key to a lot of things. And if I do disappear or if I do get demotivated, you should probably feel a little more worried, because that's bad. That means the project probably doesn't interest me, or yeah, if I'm physically unable. Like I seriously, I don't think it'll ever get to the point where I'm mentally unable, right? To where it's like, it has to probably be something physical that takes me out from working on this game. So hopefully that's a little less morbid and more of like a, hell yeah, I'm gonna get this thing fucking out, and like also have backup protocols in mind. Yeah, make a Momentum will
like
no.
anyone work so hard on something than Goknak on Momentum. So yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, it is absolutely good to have backups though. So we'll be doing that. Did anybody have any input on that? All right, we'll continue on. Thank you, Lumia, for asking the dark questions. No, I'm just kidding. For asking the core questions there. But yeah, move on to the next.
The next question is also by Lumia, but it's not as dark, not as morbid. It's what kind of delay between you and others exists in lobbies compared to traditional servers?
Does somebody want to take that, like Bray, or I could talk about it?
I don't know if that's been tested, if we've done the stress testing yet.
Yeah, I mean, we do it like peer to peer instead of like a synchronized, like, client server, but Yeah. So I guess it's a little bit more unreliable, like the delay,
Yeah.
where and server that are traditional servers are everything needs to be synchronized because I mean the games were made for interacting with other people, but ours isn't. So I don't know if that would mean less or more delay, or I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It depends. I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
peer to
A little
peer.
less unreliable. But,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't need to be reliable, right?
If we
It
drop
goes
a packet or two, like it's not
Yeah.
a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Right. The entire game doesn't stutter. You don't get insane delays or twitching anything. But there is that cost of it's peer to peer, which means the more people you have in your server, the more data you're going to be sending because you're sending it to everybody as opposed to one entity and then that one server whose sole job is to process everything and then send it out to everybody. So there is that inherent delay. Thank you for the raid, Benoe. Welcome everybody. So there is that inherent delay, but it's been playable. It's not. We aren't going for the fastest peer-to-peer. Hey Cam, we did answer that. We aren't going for the fastest like peer-to-peer networking ever because it's not important to the game to be. So there will be a noticeable delay compared to just connecting to a server in the area and going through official servers and stuff. We will be optimizing the netcode further. But yeah, for the most part, like there's not much we can do about a peer-to-peer situation versus server to peers, right? Situation. So there will be more delay the more people you have in your lobby. The game will still be playable. The lag doesn't affect your game unless your computer can't handle sending that data for some reason. I don't think that'll ever be the case. Like, I don't think that's something else that we can optimize is like how much data it ends up sending, right? We have like a hard-coded like update rate anyway. So even if you go like, higher tick rate or whatever, it won't go crazy, right? With updates. So for the most part, right, the netcode, because we're not a multiplayer focused game, we haven't like super cared, and that's why you don't have a ping display, because as long as you're connecting through Steam and it's through Steam relays, obviously a connection across the world is probably going to be pretty delayed, but even in a local area it might also be a second, maybe. It depends, right? Depends on where the Steam nodes are, because sometimes it'll have to go further than where the server is hosted and then it goes over to the peer as opposed to just a node between you and the peer or something. So yeah. Hopefully that answers that. It's hopefully, right, it's not too bad. And I mean, the only synchronized stuff that we are going to be doing is more or less going to be things based on time anyway, in the sense of like time that you start a run and finish a run. So like racing and stuff like that, which the server is going to verify anyway. So for the most part, right, like that kind of delay is not very important to core gameplay. So was there any other input on this question? The ideally, it's going to be as smooth, right, as possible. That the delay, you trade the delay for like, oh yeah, like this is very smooth to spectate, right? As opposed to, oh yeah, like it can connect in like 40 milliseconds, but if they drop a packet, oh shit, like it's stuttering like crazy, like stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see. We do also need to stress test it. I think that was mentioned before too. So we need to see how much bandwidth 200 players in a lobby is going to take. We have to see how badly the game's going to get broken. And keep in mind the dedicated servers, the dedicated lobbies are going to be dedicated hosted nodes that you send only to and get info back. We'll have it that way. So if you are getting bad lag in the peer-to-peer lobbies, you could host a dedicated one and then hope that helps somewhere, right? But again, multiplayer, we're going to be focusing more on kind of just like general interaction and not specific time-based interaction. That's why Trix isn't supported, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Lumia, for that question. Hopefully that helps answer that.
Our next question is by Tomato asking, how do you get the code for all the different move types?
All over the place, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, okay. Yeah, so the source engine inherently comes with CSS, CSGO, AHOP movement, Half-Life 2, right? We got Half-Life 2 movement for free. That was actually included with the SDK.
Yep.
CSS and CSGO, we have engine access now, so we get it through that. We could even get portal movement if we wanted to. Left 4 Dead, I think we have to ask another Chaos member about. So source engine stuff we kind of get because we're licensees. When it comes to parkour and defrag, that comes from the community. So parkour was created by Half-Life 2 mobility mod by Rob, and there's a mod DB called Half-Life 2 mobility mod. Somebody can link it in chat if they find it. And it's wonderful. It's Half-Life 2, but with Titanfall 2 inspired movement. And we got in contact with Rob and asked, hey, can we use this for our game? Like we love Titanfall. Like I love Titanfall 2, right? Like so he ended up open sourcing his mod code and gave us permission to use it. For Conk, we have Fortress Forever movement that we got permission from Squeak. So Fortress Forever is another free kind of game on Steam that aims to replicate Team Fortress Classic. So pretty cool game. They're open source and we have permission to use it. Defrag's a little more questionable. Defrag, Quake 3, Quake 2 is open, but defrag and like there's like specific repositories that are closed, that are kind of more like we're gonna have to, or Lumia has to kind of figure out how to do it based on feel, which kind of leads to maybe defrag being our own kind of style. We'll see how that evolves, but yeah, it's all over the place. It is there's like it's pretty insane, right? How much the open source kind of side of things leads to, right? So it's very easy for source-based stuff because we're now fully licensed and have it. But for non-source or source-inspired stuff, we got pretty lucky, I want to say, and it's amazing. It's amazing how many different like open source or like different communities are out there that have done this and have ironed it out, and then we're just going to be taking it and tweaking it and making it fit momentum, but gear it more towards speedrunning, because right, like there's some mods that maybe focus on the weapons side of stuff or health and things that we don't have, and it's like, okay, well, we don't need that, we just want the movement. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And then a lot of it is just kind of understanding the theory behind how stuff works as well. So Quake defrag style movement is pretty well documented. Well documented. Yeah. So it's well understood. It's open source as well, right? So it is pretty easy to kind of get defrag inspired movement into the game based on that. So that helps a lot too. And
Apart
it's
from
just
licensing.
yeah,
We'll
see. But anyway, yeah. So hopefully that helps. We just kind of it's a mixture of lucky and asking around. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for everything that's happened. We've gotten license, we've gotten permission from from these wonderful games and mods. So it's awesome. Momentum's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
cool about that too. Like with like TF2 movement or something like that, we can now actually have the code for TF2, so we can actually kind of better understand how exactly it's implemented. Like even going to like the weapons and seeing like is what we're doing the same as this other game, which is really cool. I don't know where we like originally got TF2 movement from. I mean,
yeah, no, the
having
SDK
people like Ildprut and
yeah
they went and
reversed it.
yeah.
Ildprut was
Yeah,
talking
having
about
people
how he
like that,
used
very,
how he used the Linux debug binaries that still had symbols in them. He was able to get reverse engineer through that. So
wow.
yeah, and now we can verify it.
Yeah.
And now we can verify it. So it's
They
awesome.
seem to get it spot on, right? Though
Yeah.
those guys.
Yeah, it's quite great.
So awesome. But yeah, we'll move on. Thank you, Tomato, for that question. Hopefully that answers that.
Our next question is by Rogaaa?
Or Roger, I think, in
Rogaaa.
top. Roger top in chat.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Rogaaa asking, can we see an in-game replay editor that surpasses demo editing tools?
Well, short answer, yes. Or wait, no, let me reword it. Yes. Long answer, it's a lot of work. We already have the replay viewer in place, so it'd be a matter of extending those. Being able to kind of set up cameras and like control camera entities and stuff. We have access to TF2 replay code and stuff, you know, like other systems in place, the demo editing tools and stuff. We could see how these systems and tools do it and then make it better. It's a lot of work, but it's possible. To make kind of like edit the replays, to make edits, you know, things like the TF2 jump community with their jump edits and stuff like that. Kind of allowing that to happen in game, making it easier on them. Absolutely. Like, we want to make content creation as, I guess, streamlined as possible, right? It'd be really cool. I think I talked about it in the blog post. If we could get a direct SVR, source video recorder, ksfrecords project, a direct integration of that into our game, so that all you do is when you're watching a replay and you're like, yeah, I really like this, I want to export this, you know, to MP4 or something. We have a button or like an options or something panel that pops up, and you could just use it, right? Like, just in the game. Like, you don't have to set up any crazy like parameters or anything. You just have it. And so that, combined with editing tools letting you specify what exactly, you know, you get to see, would be really, really awesome. And so as the replay refactor goes on, we will be taking this into account. It won't really come with the replay refactor. I think in-game replay editor tools could probably come later. It'll take time. That's why it's like, yes, because it's like, it's just a matter of like, can we get around to it and have the dev capacity to do it, especially nowadays where we're kind of more focused on specific core features first. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Does anybody have any input on that? Thank you.
Well,
Nope.
kind of wanted to say, like, not really like editing the replay file, just kind of like using it for editing videos, I guess, right?
Yeah, like a video creator almost. Yeah. You wouldn't.
But
Yeah, you wouldn't edit your
definitely
replay.
not want people to, yeah, mess with replay files.
Well, I guess the closest thing to that would be task tools, and we'll have those, but that'll be for the task leaderboards. So.
Mhm.
But yeah, good point. Yeah, you won't be able to edit. Yeah, you won't be able to edit your replay that you're submitting to the site. But absolutely, video creation tools, absolutely. All right, thank you, Roger or Rogaaa, for that for that question, and we'll move on to the next one.
Next question is Amp asking, will new maps getting added for the official map pool have a set release date, like every weekend or every 2 weeks? Or will maps be continuously added throughout the week?
So I guess my understanding was that they'll basically just be released when they're done.
Mhm.
I mean, it might want to like delay them a little bit to kind of put them into batches, but I know like arbitrary, like, you know, we can only release one map per week or something like that. I think KSF does that. But yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much. Ideally, it's every week new content. We have, I think, enough of a backlog, or we should have enough of a backlog that can suffice for that. How many has been a topic of discussion? How many per mode, right? Too. We want to prioritize newer modes or lesser populated modes more than anything. But yeah, I mean, I would like to kind of group them. I think having a map drop, in a sense, like kind of promoting like, oh, you know, like Tuesdays are Steam down days, right? Like stuff like that, where it's like, oh, Friday evenings or Saturday mornings could be map drop days, right? Where you have map
tournament for them or something like
Yeah.
the next day. Yeah.
Right. And so we have the new maps. We have a tournament for them, or whatever event that we could run. So continuously added throughout the week would probably muddy that, right? Like you boot the game, you see a new map. You boot the game, you see 2 more new maps and stuff like that. Versus you boot the game on Saturday and whoosh, like it's like 5 to 10 to 15, however many we add. We don't want to overwhelm players, but we also want to make sure that we're not stingy about it. Because I think it was discussed, like if we did like 5 surf maps every week, it would take like 2 to 3 years to actually get through all of the maps like currently on KSF or something like that. So we don't want to do that. we instead want to make sure that we're adding quality maps at a successful or a rate that people agree with and aren't overwhelmed with.
One thing, like, we aren't really limited in the amount we can add at once as well because of, I guess, the way the map adding in the future will be handled, where like on servers traditionally there's just kind of one admin that has to handle every single map they add and zone them all and test them all. But if the testing is already done and the zoning's already done throughout the community, then basically we have to just give it a go ahead.
Flip a switch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and then what Ox said in chat, yeah, it is worth noting that we aren't bound to servers running one map at one time. We can drop as many maps as we need, or we could be, a little more organic with maps. If there is a really big release and it deserves its own day or something, maybe it's like a collab map that took a while and was hyped up, absolutely, we could do that on its own day. So it is kind of by ear. I think we will absolutely discuss the rate at which maps will be added more, because we don't want to do 5, but what's the right number, right? And then how will the map selector handle that? Because like, do you select for every map or do you select for just a specific game mode? Because if you go specific game mode, then you could actually add more maps that way and not be overwhelmed too much. So we'll see. But for the most part, there will be definitely we want content in our game. So it'll definitely be more frequent, or at least a lot of maps at once as opposed to one at a time and just kind of weirdly sporadically spread out. Was there any other input that you guys had? All right. Thank you, Am, for that question. Hopefully that answers that. It's kind of an asterisk, but yeah, it'll definitely be also dictated by chat, or sorry, by the community. Yeah, by Twitch chat. Twitch releases every single one of our maps.
Twitch plays momentum.
Twitch plays momentum administration. You guys can ban anyone. You can release any 40 every second. The same map, just released 40 times. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the next question here.
Our next question is JSwag asking, what are your thoughts on racing against your own or other players' ghosts during a run?
We love it.
Ghosting mod.
Ghosting mod lives on.
Yep. The legacy continues.
So as a reference, ghosting mod, those familiar with Half-Life 2 speedrunning, ghosting mod was a mod, is what got me into C++ and Source. So it's a mod that lets you record runs and play them back in-game, starting at the same start point of when the run starts. So you have an in-game representation of where you were. That was me before Momentum, so you could probably understand how the replay system's coming to be. But absolutely. Sorry. One thing that I'm really pumped about is data visualization. We have the ability to in-game visualize things like where your runs are in the map. We could do things like heat maps of where people fail the most, Mario Maker style or whatever, right? Like we could do a lot of really cool stuff and have specific effects or shaders or whatever for specific data. And I think that'll like trails, like bot trail, but for all of the attempts that you've done in the, like stuff like that, like we could do some really, really cool data visualization. And so absolutely having a ghost run against you, any other person's ghost, any single time on the leaderboard you can compare against and race against. The comparisons update, which is 0.12 now or 0.11. forget my own versions. There's a question later on that we'll talk about the versions, but and I'll have to probably whip up the the release roadmap to refresh myself exactly. But it is absolutely planned. The comparisons update will actually have ghost racing. So you can race against ghosts and have like the timer will also update in real time like Live Split does, where it's showing you against maybe a gold or maybe against you know, where you are. Like if you start running behind your PB, it'll turn the timer red, stuff like that, where you can visually see early on where you are compared to the run that you're comparing against. So absolutely. Thank you for this question, JSwag. It's a very important thing. Did anybody have anything else to add? All right, cool. We'll move on to the next one.
Our next question is Plar asking, will Momentum Mod have a YouTube channel with records for each game mode, kind of like sourcejump or ksfrecords? And if yes, who will be responsible for that?
I think we talked about this a bit yesterday. We do want to use our own YouTube channel kind of to highlight runs, but I don't know if we're going to go the route of like Tempus records where we upload every single record. It will be more of just like a select few. And we also want to kind of empower the community to make edits themselves rather than having it completely centralized on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. The single point of failure. The main thing to keep in mind is most really well done things tend to have copyrighted music. So having it all in one channel, right? The Momentum channel, I think, yeah, we discussed this. It's like the Momentum channel is going to be more curated highlighting content. Things like showing off particular runners is really appealing, right? Showing off maybe some, again, hyped up maps, maybe having map, you know, release highlight videos.
Tournament highlights.
Yeah. So like I don't want to quash that community at all. I think that there's a place for every single record ever being uploaded, and there's a place for highlighted edits of a way, you know, in a way that's like more just having cinematics or really well done editing and synchronized music and stuff like that. There's also the curated side of like what we want to try to show off, because we want to show off more of our game and like our community in our game, but in the sense that we don't want to be the only source of it. So I would very much expect a Momentum Records channel to pop up. Somebody's probably already registering it right now. But the main thing is like, I would love for the community to kind of dictate or kind of take that and run with it. And just like, we would be instead focusing on just the highlights, the well-crafted videos, highlighting things or showing off, you know, specific maps, interview stuff. If we want to do like mapper or player interviews, we could do that. Stuff like that, right? Where it's like it's more officially done in relation to the community, and then kind of stepping back and letting the community run wild with how they want to do their own content. Because yeah, I mean, if we dictated it like, oh, okay, all of the edit videos can go on our channel, right? Like, yeah, we don't want to kind of do that. We want to make it more like we'll make content for our channel, but we'll kind of put the record related stuff in other community related channels' hands.
And we'll also make sure to like publicize if there's channels that are making content about Momentum. If we will shout them out, probably hopefully have a YouTube kind of listing or channel in the Discord for when there's new releases.
Yep. Yeah, we'll probably move all of the I think it's currently in the welcome channel. We'll probably have a links channel, just where all the important links related to Momentum are. So the official Momentum stuff, community Momentum related stuff, stuff like that. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and I guess somebody did ask a very similar question early, so I'll just kind of put it here because it's on the nose. From DullAndBoringUsername. Well, I don't think it's that dull. But I mean, yeah. So they ask, so Tempus has a system, which they're referring to Tempus Records, that kind of auto uploads world records to YouTube, and like bonus collections and things like that. And they're just asking if we had something similar, because I think this previous question is more so like ksfrecords or sourcejump, where
edited,
people
curated.
people edit and then put music over it, where this is just like just the run and upload to YouTube.
I think that kind of content is valid for YouTube, but maybe not ours. So yeah, it'll be most likely Larry or somebody that's familiar with that system. We could offer the API hooks, right? When we have world records beaten, we could have like webhooks and stuff be pushed out. A lot of community integration as well. Having people be able to have like a momentum bot. Well, we'll be expanding momentum bot to have like world record commands and stuff. That'd be really cool to kind of have momentum bot be able to join other players' discords and stuff like that, so that they can get momentum related info without having to be in the discord exactly. But we'll see. But yeah, API access, just allowing the community to kind of take the data that our game generates and express it and show it off in the way that they want. But yeah, so that is definitely going to be done, not officially, but we'll support it as best as we can with the people that are more familiar with it, like Larry. So
and also there's also not really the limitation anymore of like when you're on a server, you can only watch the replay of the map you're on.
Yeah.
Like if you want to watch any replay of any run done anywhere, you can just go on the map yourself and then watch it. So you don't have the hassle of like on Tempus, like you can download the source TV demo and then look at it and find the tick you have to watch.
Yeah.
You just like at the moment the record happens, you probably read about it somewhere. You can just join the map and then look at it, and it's that kinda takes away the need for these completely unedited channels if you want to pause it and take a look at where the rockets went and stuff like that. But I guess if you don't want to look at it in the game, there's still a place for it.
Yeah, right, because they're offering that option is really, and that's also why we didn't do that's part of the reason why as well that we didn't do the web hosted WebGL like replay viewer, is we could have a button right on our website that launches momentum and like goes through the process of like downloading the map and replay for you and playing it for you. Like you could have way more control over a system that we already have in place. And so it was just like, we want to promote people playing and downloading and getting into the game. So yeah, so like that's always the option. And the other thing too is like that URL could be in the description of these videos, right? And we might try to kind of strong arm our way to do that, because we want to promote people checking out the game and playing it. So like having that link that opens Steam, right, that and opens momentum to play that replay, right, it's just awesome. So like yeah, having that option, but also having the ability to see curated content, just yeah, options are good. Having options are good. So
be nice to watch on your phone. Yeah
So thank you, Plar, for that. Hopefully that answers that. We'll move on from that question to the next one.
The next question is Jabber asking, what's our stance on strafe binds like plus left and plus move left, as well as what's our stance on complex or strange aliases in general?
A lot about this pretty
recently.
Yeah, I think when it was a couple of weeks ago we had this conversation, didn't we?
It was, I think, in the team meeting, but
yeah, a couple times in the last month I think we talked about it.
Yeah. So the main thing, right, is there's a certain line that you start to cross with in-game macroing and in-game like aliases and stuff. For example, like there's a script that lets you kind of modify or like use your scroll wheel to go up and down on like yaw speed and stuff. And like, okay, so the way that I view it, right, is like, first of all, we don't have wait. Like wait and being able to programmatically do things through aliases and stuff like that, like to where it's playing the game for you or doing multiple actions like that, where it's like delayed and yeah, you just press a key and everything happens. No, like that's basically borderline tasks. We'll have task tools, right? Stuff like that. So that kind of scripting should hopefully be satiated by that. But instead, right, like if you have something that's so complex, but it is almost fundamental to the game, to where it's like for rocket jump, making C taps a little more easier because it does crouch or not, is like jump bug or something. Right, like having an alias that does all these complex things, like I see that more as a failure of the game than really a failure or like an abuse or anything. Like our game should probably have that, right? If that's almost essential to the gameplay or something, we should probably have it. We should not tuck away or have these like complex aliases hidden, or like on the docs or whatever. Like they should actually be like check boxes in the menu, right? Like we currently have nulls, we currently have release W on jump, stuff like that.
Broken, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll fix that. But stuff like that, where that I see that more as a failure of the game. Like if you have to rely on these things, but at the same time, right? The other thing that we need to keep in mind is like we don't want to limit people's ability to do inputs. Like if you do multiple things per I think the level that we're going to probably go is like we might ban recursive aliases, things that just call upon like 5 other aliases inside of themselves, or go like we'll probably keep track of the stack that it's like that it pushes and executes, and just maybe limit it to like 1 or 2 levels of recursion or something. This is something that we definitely need to probably discuss more on the forums officially, because there are really helpful binds that people use that we should just make default behaviors, or not default, but like in the game, behaviors in the game that you can toggle on or bind or something. Because that kind of level of complexity should never ever fall upon, oh yeah, you just have to download the right alias. You have to download the right script and you'll get world record because you crouched and jumped at the same tick or something. It's not your fault, Arc. It's just something that is very important, because we need to very clearly set there's no discrepancy between, oh yeah, I'm pressing one key that's doing 5 different things at the same time, right? Like at that point, like where you're getting to that point is like, why is it needed? Why does it exist? What does it actually do? And so understanding that aspect and making it so that you can still have aliases for mapping and, for useful cases where it might be beneficial to have kind of like the num keypad change binds, right? Or like change some commands that you have bound to your keyboard, stuff like that. That's important, but at the same time we need to be able to clarify that, like, okay, so outside macros aren't allowed, but I could do all of this in an inside macro with like alias, right? So like being able to differentiate like where that line is drawn, and like what people can do and can't do. And yeah, it just needs a lot more community clarification as well. I know MMOs in particular typically have a rule of like one key doing one thing. Like RuneScape, for example, you can't really use auto hotkey to do too much. They'll ban you if they detect that or something. But yeah, have sideways things like modes and stuff should be part of the game, right? So the idea would be like have sideways and stuff. You would turn on the run tag so that you're like running for that, and then your binds could change to it, and we could have like an official config and stuff that it reads for that. So we'll still support binds that kind of allow that, but the idea is that it's more officially supported. It's not through things like, yeah, download this back alley alias that's hidden away. Make it more fundamentally part of the game with reasonable defaults, right? So for example, like nulls, right? And that's a big contention. Nulls allow you to press override. So if you hold A and then press D, if you don't have nulls, it stops you. You stop moving because it cancels each other out. But we have a setting that allows you to press hold down A and press D, and it starts to move the other way. Now, there's obviously concerns with that. The implementation is not actually final, we have to kind of work on that a bit more to limit it so that we can only let you change, I think, direction when you debounce. So we have to listen for a debounce as opposed to just completely overriding, because otherwise you could just hold A and then tap D to strafe, as opposed to like actually doing the synchronized A, D, right, left, right. So that's the main thing with that. But yeah, so it is very heavily dependent on the community, and we'll have probably super lengthy discussions. We already have a couple. What's a couple more, right?
Yeah.
That will solidify how we actually take our stance on this, because we want to understand what kind of binds people are using that require complex, really weird aliases, so that we can properly limit it client side, and then detect weird shit in our anti-cheat otherwise, right? So we need that clear distinction for our anti-cheat as well. So that's the other aspect, right? We don't want to have, oh yeah, you can press one button and it does 50 different things, and then just like, oh yeah, looking at this data, like who's the cheater, right? Who has the perfect macro that's playing the game for them versus, oh, this person's just using this weird ass alias. So yeah, that's the main thing. It just definitely needs more community discussion. Did anybody have any input on that? Okay, thank you, Jabra, for that. Wait, did somebody? I just cut you.
I don't know. I guess I was just going to say that the fact you don't have the wait command does like limit you so much in terms of what aliases can do. Like it's that alone. It's like you can't do like loops that don't crash your game for the most part, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's some way of doing it, but like, it's...
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like we don't have wait. We're not adding wait. We'll have tasks. You can do tasks. Like we'll do that. But like alias stuff should be more of a convenience thing that is user specific, right? Because it is user config, but it's also not abused like crazy, right? Like it doesn't do really abusive things. And then if that abusive behavior, or seemingly abusive behavior, should actually just be part of the game, we could look into querying the community about it, seeing if it's actually something we want to have supported officially, or ban it officially. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. We'll move on to the next question here by Hex.
Hex is asking, what exactly is the purpose of a dedicated lobby? Why would it be better than a roaming lobby or a public lobby with friends?
Right on.
Yeah,
This
a
is-
lot of it's to mimic like traditional dedicated servers.
Yeah.
For those who prefer that. I mean, and also it kind of helps sub communities, because roaming lobbies, like you may not know anybody that's in a roaming lobby. It's kind of like it's almost like joining like a Valve server, like you don't know, but like versus like joining like a actual dedicated server where you see the same people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then giving them the ability to hook into like player models and other customizations, and I guess their own leaderboards if they want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much nailed it. Roaming lobbies are temporary. They only exist as long as people are on the map and in the lobby for the map. Public lobby with friends is also temporary. They don't stick around. If your friends all leave and you leave, it's gone, right? You have to get everybody back into it. They're kind of just like this toggle of whether or not you're talking with other people, right, on the game. But a dedicated lobby is something that you turn on and host. And so, yeah, I mean, you can turn it off when everybody's off or whatever. But like the idea is like it is something that is like fire and forget. Like you put it on, a server or something, and it's hosted. And so it's more of a permanent multiplayer solution. Lobbies, and in particular the temporary lobbies, are really just more situational. So lobby with friends that's public, yeah, sure, you can get randoms to join you, right, and stuff like that. That's okay. But like it is at the time, like it's not really, it doesn't have any website integrations or anything like that. It's just multiplayer at the time. A dedicated lobby is more permanent, and so it's clans are going to host them, friend groups that are huge and constantly playing are going to host them, stuff like that, where it'll have more control over the multiplayer too. So it'll have control over like who can join, right? It can blacklist people from joining and like sending data to each other, things like that, and it deeply integrates with our site, what Bray said. So yeah, it is a more permanent kind of multiplayer solution that mimics the dedicated server of other games. Yeah. Any other input on that? Thank you, Hex, for the clarifying question there. We'll move on to the next one.
The next one is by Pileo'stuff asking.
Pileo'stuff. Sorry about that. The font doesn't let me capitalize it. He has proper capitalization in the Discord, so sorry about that, Pile.
Yeah, I completely just massacred your alias.
It's all good.
Pileo'stuff asking, with other players being non-interactable, could it become more of a commonplace for maps to include puzzle-like elements? Is momentum mods reset bind capable enough to handle resetting everything in the map?
Yeah, like I don't know, I like puzzle elements, but I think Ox kind of ran into this. So some time ago we were discussing it. Like not resetting like certain rotating brushes and doors and things like that. There's a few things we could do. So we could have like the reset bind, or I guess the act of leaving the start zone kind of reset the specific entities that need resetting, or maybe some sort of like new like NV entity that like throws an output that you can capture with specific entities that you want to reset. So I mean, I think it might be better to just put it on the mapper for that one, but I don't think we've really discussed it past that.
One other thing that might be kind of concerning is also in replays as well as spectating how that would work, because if there's dynamic elements and there's ghosts on your map, you don't want them to affect it, but you also don't want to be spectating and seeing people just like clipping through doors and stuff.
Yeah. Standing on nothing.
For the most part, like most of the maps have been fairly just static, like because they were designed for servers, they don't have anything dynamic to them, except for a few like weird breakable things and jump maps.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll like, well, I guess pretty much all the time, they'll just when they add into the server, they'll just get rid of those. There's no like doors you have to wait for to open.
Yeah, Coast Skybox comes to mind.
Or they'll do like doors that like you can go through, so they still have like the aesthetic of like opening, but yeah, you can pass through them.
Right. Yeah, it's like a phased wall or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on how we want to go about it. We will absolutely have a like info or point entity that listens to timer events. Fires timer output, or fires outputs based on timer starting, timer resetting, timer restarting, or sorry, yeah, you know what I mean. But like timer events, stuff like that the mapper can hook into. The reset bind could also take advantage of it. We could do more code related events because there's the discrepancy of spectating a replay in first person, kind of like watching the replay, what it's doing. And then there's playing back a replay ghost that is just racing against you, or just you're like playing it for some reason. You can do that. So there's that discrepancy of like you technically spectating a ghost is almost like as if you were playing the map. So what we could do is like, yeah, we could have that game state hook into kind of like when you're doing these events, when you're spectating, because like that's the other thing too, is when you spectate somebody, right, like in the lobby, those puzzle elements aren't going to be open. So like if the mapper is okay with that, like if you're okay with like in a multiplayer lobby, right, watching people, I guess, on like not really interact with your version of the map, because that's the whole point of, you know, our multiplayer, that would be okay. Because like you'll still see like where rockets go and stuff. So like if there's like a hidden like or a switch you have to hit or something, you'll still see them do that, but it won't affect your game. And then what we could do is when you watch replays, watch replay ghosts, we could have either like we want to expand the flags out so that when you're spectating a ghost, it could filter that out. And then when you're also like when you just want ghosts to be able to trigger things, right? So multiplayer related elements, but hopefully that, you know, that's not actually gameplay related. So I mean, the main thing there is like what needs to be reset, right? So we could very easily hook things into an output of when the timer restarts or when the timer starts, and then like maybe have like different events based on who's starting the timer. So if it's the player starting the timer versus the player spectating a ghost, because I mean functionally it's equivalent, right? You watch a timer. The problem is you can go to any point in the replay, right? So we don't simulate all the way up to that point. We just jump to it. So like physically jump to that point. So puzzle elements like that are going to need to be able to handle that. And, you know, right? Like we could look into like, okay, we look at like what triggers get like actually triggered in output. And then just like when you jump, we go through all of those triggers and hit them and stuff like that. Like we trigger all of them. And then when you get to that point, it resynchronizes the world state with that. That is possible. It won't restart the map or anything. Like it won't be like the demo player that needs to restart the entire replay.
Oh my god.
we would just force reset everything and then trigger the things that need to be done up to that point. This is part of the replay refactor, by the way. Like this is things we need to consider. So it is good that this is being asked, because yeah, this is stuff that's on our radar, of things that we want to try to support reasonably. Now, obviously, we can't support everything, right? Like we aren't going to be able to support you spectating. Because like what if you join a lobby in the middle, you know, like we would have to network all of the state that they've accumulated to you and then apply it when you spectate them. It is possible. It's just like how much of that do we want to do, you know? So it's things that we want to look into though. I think the replay refactor first, because we need to make sure that the ghost that you're watching actually triggers things on your map, and then when you stop spectating, it's back to the state you had. Right, we almost do like a save.sav, right, save file, but not physically, right? We just do it in memory and then apply it when you know, only to specific entities as well. So there's definitely a way, and it's going to take a lot of engineering effort to do it, but absolutely, right? We want puzzle-like elements. I love puzzle maps. I want to play some more puzzle games. I have a ton that are in my Steam catalog that I actually want to play. Like I haven't played The Witness, and I've heard it's really good.
What?
So, like, stuff like that, right? I've been working on Momentum. I don't have time. I want to play it. So, stuff like that, you know? Like, I love puzzle games and puzzle-like elements, so I would love to support it officially and make it easier for mappers to integrate, and then using that integration, properly synchronize it with, like, the state of, like, spectating versus playing versus... watching a replay, I guess, which is also spectating. So there's the two aspects of it, like physically playing and spectating, that need to synchronize, and how that'll synchronize. Yeah, that'll be fun. It'll be fun it's actually a fun engineering problem. Probably pretty straightforward. Probably just expanding the save state struct that we have to include like entities and outputs and stuff, and then networking that. But yeah. Is there any other input on that?
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be caring about this more during campaign development as well. Like,
yeah,
line this.
Campaign's going to have some fun stuff in it.
I mean, like the lead, you know, mapper is really interested in these things. So I think it's going to be handled pretty well.
Yeah. So we'll move on. Thank you, Pileo'stuff, for that question.
I love that name.
We'll move on.
Pileo'stuff.
Pileo'stuff.
Our next question is by Sash asking, will there be custom add-ons and plugins like how CSS and Gary's Mod have SSJ plugins?
Yeah. So I mean,
SSJ?
I guess for those who don't know, like, yeah, SSJ is like a plugin that does like various related like jump stats, like counting jumps, displaying speed gains, and stuff like that. So the implementation of like many plugins are quite hacky, not because, you know, they're made poorly. It's just that they have to be to implement the features they want. There's not too much they can do about that. But us on the other hand, yeah, we have access to, well, now everything, right? Except physics. Yeah, pretty much everything.
I'll ask about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we're kind of at like a big advantage on that regard in that we can actually implement those things in the game without having to go through all these like hacky kind of inefficient ways of doing them. Yeah, so I mean that I don't really know what the extent of like our add-on like plugin support is going to be, but I don't think we're going to think too much about it. Just because, you know, if people want something, you know, tell us, we could put it in the game. We have active devs and access to a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. So I'll kind of step in. We're not going to support plugins, the official DLL stuff. So SourceMod's not going to work with it. And traditional, I guess, server plugins don't work. There's even a freaking exploit related. Anyway, so yeah, the DLL and DLL loading, stuff like that, it's not going to be supported. But yeah, so the really nice thing, right, is we have dedicated UI. Like, we can have really cool looking visualization, and that ties in with the data visualization. HUD, right, is probably the most important data visualization that you have. What's currently being shown to the player doing a run or playing, right? So yeah, absolutely. We will have SSJ and related stats, but they will be officially implemented. And, you know, we'll have like documentation on how to, you know, set it up, customize it, stuff like that on our docs page. But yeah, I mean, we won't support official plugins because what Bray said, ask us. we're most likely able to implement it if it's something, you know, straightforward that other plugins have done as well. That's the other thing too, is like if existing work, you know, if plugin creators come to us and they're like, yeah, go ahead and, you know, you could use our code, we give you permission, and you know, we implement what you guys already know and love just officially, right? That's what we're trying to aim for. So what you can find on servers and stuff, just better, and directly implemented.
Yeah,
so
and
everybody
would
can
also
benefit.
force us to like provide a stable API and ABI, so it, like the plugins could hook the right functions, and
Yeah.
then like source games, I think there's a tendency for all these plugins to break when there's an update.
Yep.
Because the support
yeah.
is also like pretty, like Valve also doesn't really have such a big interest in it. Like there's a few interfaces and there's some documented on VDC, but it's also pretty sparse. And
Yeah.
especially since we are always in the process of removing stuff and reordering stuff, it's not really too reasonable to have, especially at this point where it's all changing all the time. It's not really, doesn't really make sense to set up a specific API that you could use for your plugins, and maybe if like post 2.0 where everything's kind of settled in, there's always the possibility to open up the discussion again. But when the game's hopefully gonna have updates very regularly, it's just it won't be a good experience for trying to make a plugin that works regularly.
Yeah. I know the Chaos devs want to implement a scripting layer because it's kind of more of a sandbox kind of experience of kind of opening it up to the community to do what they want with the game. So there is that possibility of like we expose a bit through Chaos script, right? Through the scripting layer, so that mappers can at least have a better experience with stuff, but it's going to be pretty limited. You know, you won't be able to change game state. Like it'll probably be more or less entity IO and stuff like that, but yeah, so plugins in general, just too much work, and just, yeah, we're active. just tell us what you want. We'll triage it, you know. But yeah, hopefully that answers that. Sash, thank you for that question. Did anybody else have anything to add? All right, we'll move on to, I think, the last question Yeah, that's it. All right.
Our last question. Last question by Starly asking, what will the remaining updates to 1.0.0 be focusing on, and how long do you think each will take to work on?
Yeah, I'll put the in chat here. So yeah, our projects are all, or our roadmap, I guess. I hate that word, but our roadmap is publicly available to look at. But yeah, this is a very project lead question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so part of the kind of going closed is like, yeah, we need to do a lot of upfront planning. I mean, I started to do this planning before we went closed source, but before we got licensed, right? But the main thing is, so, all right, I guess going into like detail, right? Ideally, 090 is going to be done in like a month or so. And then 091 and 092 kind of come as they do. So that's like maybe a week or two. They are smaller updates, right? They're going to be just as we add things. So as we add more panorama, we're going to be pushing it, getting people to, test it, feedback, all of that. One moment. Oh, sorry. Got the burps. So 090, I'm estimating I'm going to be pushing an update tomorrow. That's not 090, but that's going to be the conch movement. The remaining work there is making sure conch movement is what the conkers want. And then abstracting out portals. So pulling portals out into the base engine so that we can use them. And then pulling the portal related movement to be able to go through portals and stuff like that into our game movement. And then after that, I think that's that. Panorama main menu, which is basically done. Slidey basically got it done. Like, you're probably going to see a team showcase if you're in our Discord about that soon. And then there's some minor stuff that we're kind of looking into. Like, there's some bugs and stuff that are popping up as people play, some crashes that people are reporting that we want to fix. So those will be just kind of done as they're done. But ideally, that takes another 2 to 3 weeks. So what day is it? Time is an illusion. So mid-June, probably, for 090. I don't know. It's not really, that's not our deadline, but like mid-June-ish for 090. And then probably end of June, 091, early July, mid-July, 092. 010 is kind of the next big thing, right? So that'll be what we kind of move towards, is the zone refactor is like right after I'm done, basically, with all the abstraction work that I'm doing. I'm going to jump over to the zone related tooling and documentation that we need to get down pat. The zone refactor and zone tooling update is 010, and that's aiming for the end of July, early August. 011 is the next step, right? Is replay refactor. So the replay format, it's going to be refactored. It's going to have way more data in it, rockets, conchs, just all different types of stuff stored inside of it. And, ideally, right, we have like better replay tools, stuff like that, shows you more data, how long you spend on each stage and stuff like that in the bar. So there's definitely a ton of cards there. It's 011, so replay refactor and zone refactor. After 011, that's like, we're pretty much dead set on getting to 1.0. We could actually release probably after that, but we're going to take our time because 012 is going to be a comparisons update, adding way more functionality for people to get kind of better at seeing like their own data, seeing their own runs, making, tweaks to UI, adding new visualization options. And that, so 011, 012, like 012, and then 013 I think is the last kind of main version. So 013 is going to be the kind of cosmetic system implementation and testing, as well as localization. We want to get the game localized into pretty much every language we can, as people want to help with that. It'd be great to have dedicated translators to specific languages. I think towards 1.0 our UI is going to be pretty much finalized in terms of what we want people to see. So that's the reason why localization is not being primarily focused on right now. It's just we're waiting to get UI in a more stable state, panorama in place, right? That's a completely different UI system in the first place, and then the layouts, right? The layouts in place, tweaked, finalized as much as possible, you know, as much as it makes sense. So yeah, that's 0.13.0, cosmetic system. Roaming lobbies will probably actually come before that, but roaming lobbies by then as well, the multiplayer aspects. So all of that kind of finalized, and then one, like, anti-cheat is like the last main thing, but that's going to be more under the table, like as we just kind of test and we pull in people to help test as well. So anti-cheat will be the last main thing. I think probably literally the last thing to be like developed and tested and worked on. The rest of the team's going to be mainly focusing on promotion, showing off the game, reporting bugs, anything popping up before 1.0, and then we go 1.0. So all of that fitting in effectively the next 6 months is our plan. And if you think about it, right, that bird's eye view is what we have of like what's the core things left. So zone refactor, replay refactor, cosmetic system, a bunch of data visualization and like HUD related things, and then kind of just polish, localization, you know, things like that are kind of like trickled in there. So yeah, that's kind of our roadmap. Again, we can't force ourselves to meet it, but the goal that we do have is Steam runs these game festivals every like 3 seasons, I think. So there's one in the fall, and so it's like spring, kind of winter-ish, summer, and then fall. And we want to be in that fall one, or we're going to try to get into the fall one. And it would be really cool because it's like front paged on Steam. You show off the game, you're like live streaming on Steam and stuff. We'll be doing a lot of marketing pushing probably around there too. Getting hype for the game because it's coming out in like a month or whatever. Stuff like that. XP-Man's a spy. Oh shit. But anyway, so yeah, I hope that kind of overview is a good enough explanation. It's not set entirely in stone in the sense that like we could probably prioritize different things as different things happen, right? So if climb gets a shitload of work done or motivation done, we could pull in climb and make climb a dedicated 1.0 mode. So yeah, for the most part, those are kind of the main things, right? So zone refactor, re-implementing everything in panorama, but that's, you know, we already kind of have it there. But yeah, zone refactor, replay refactor, data visualization, and then cosmetic system, anti-cheat. Some kind of wrap up there. Unfortunately, we can't get the game into AGDQ. We'll be trying to get the game into SGDQ next year. It's just probably... Actually, you know what? We probably could get it into AGDQ. It might not be the... It would be really, really fucking scuffed if we did that. Wait, hold on. No, they already they did SGDQ submissions already. They already posted the schedule or like accepted games for that. Okay, so we could still get the game into AGDQ, which means that technically map playlists will actually also be implemented because that's what we can. That's what we can show off. I could run it. Yeah, I could go and run it. I wouldn't be opposed. But the other thing too is like it would be great to have it if it's virtual again to have different runners show off the game. Right. And then just have somebody stream watching them.
Contacting Soup.
Right? It'd be so cool because it's like you just play the game and we just show it off. So yeah. I'm really bad at estimating, so I don't want to give like I say a month or two for like all of these main things, but it could take longer or shorter, right? For gung ho, if we have 6 developers. If Zen comes back around, or Zen keeps working when he's back, we have a developer that's currently serving in the military, the mandatory service, so they're currently in and out. But if we have all 6 of our developers working towards these updates, I'm sure they could take less time. But yeah, AGDQ 2022, yeah, ideally, right? So AGDQ 2022 SGDQ if we don't get into AGDQ. And then as we work on the campaign, ideally SGDQ 2023 for the campaign. So ideally, right? That's the kind of GDQ schedule for Momentum's desired, I guess, showcase. I think if it goes well with our first entrance being the map showcasing and kind of like they allow Tetris. I mean, come on, like this game is built for speedrunning, right? Like they have to allow us. But yeah, it would be really cool though. I would love
campaign, definitely. Like,
oh yes,
that is like the
what
we all really want from the campaign is seeing that the GDQ.
Yeah. Yeah. So it would honestly be like one of the best ways that we could really get the game out there. So it's free, people know these game modes, so show it off and I'm sure a lot of people will be inclined. So we'll see. I mean, the GDQ staff still has to accept it. We also have to make a kick-ass submission video, which we, could ask jump editors to help out with the submission video. Show off the game in the most swag way possible. No, but oh man, I'm so pumped. 1.0 is going to be huge. Like it's going to be really big. Bigger than Christmas, screw you, Jesus's birth. I'm just kidding. But, it's going to be awesome. B-Hop Gauntlet, every game mode, right? The idea would be for runners doing a 30-minute game mode each, or 30-minute game mode gauntlet each. So, or I mean, we could show off all the modes, but the most popular ones are going to probably resonate the most, and that'll probably be what people will want to see. We can't do trick surf gauntlet because it's just surf. Why not just do surf? So yeah, stuff like that. So we have to make sure we're choosing.
Talking about GDQ. But I'm so excited for Surf's Up and Momentum.
Oh yes.
If another one of those would be, and that be done.
Oh man, yeah. That's a good point because if we don't get into AGDQ, we still have Surf's Up.
Yeah. If Kerr can do it, obviously. But
yeah,
like,
true. Yeah. Oh man.
Beginnings. Maybe a beginnings for jump.
Yeah.
Maybe tip of the hat as well, who knows?
Oh yeah. They're currently publicly planning that event. Yeah, they have a Trello.
Yeah.
On their Twitter, they have a Trello.
Yeah, I think Whisker's doing a ton of work on it at the moment, so
yeah.
I had no idea. I'm really excited. So I kind of have I guess 3 more questions that I kind of picked up during the in the
for sure.
chat.
Yeah.
So first one by Plar B-Hop. I think they're still in the chat, actually. Will testers have something like a beta tester badge after release?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the way we'll do this, because a ton of playtesters are inactive and got a key and didn't do anything, the way we're going to do this is towards 1.0, we'll have like a ping for all of our playtesters to go and like get it, like on our site, we'll have like, we'll like hard code the list on our site and then you just click a button on the site to unlock it, like through the store or something. Or we'll just grant it, honestly. I don't know how that works, but we could probably do it. Yeah, we'll have the tool that grants it. And then we'll just give it to the people that are active, that, have done enough, and we have the roles, so as long as people are in Discord still, that's the main thing. If they left, yikes.
A lot of them just
but also bitch, where'd you go? Anyway, so yeah, ideally playtesters are active there and we can get them the badge, and then it would be alpha tester badge, maybe a cosmetic as well, like some cool niche cosmetic that you can show off. Hopefully not cooler than most of the stuff on the store, but still cool and unique enough. Yeah, so
they get like a contributor badge too as well for those people that have.
Like imagine like a floating hammer going around mappers or something. Or like just like some cool effects that we could do. So some really cool cosmetic ideas.
Like the when you hover over people, I forget what is it called?
Avatar panel. It's like
Yeah.
player avatar panel. Yeah.
Yeah, it could like, I think is that the user? No, it's not. That's tied to the local. Yeah, I mean, you could do some really fun stuff with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's going to be really fun to like think about like really cool ways to show off things that you gained or earned. So yeah. Good question. Great question, Plar. Thank you for that.
And the next year, from DullAndBoringUsername again. I just don't think it's that dull. Anyways, their question is, will there be a point where you don't need to mount games to play all modes? So might be a bigger question, but yeah.
Ideally, yes. So ideally we have maps in the future that just use custom content or texture packs and model packs that we have either with the base game. All of the base like momentum campaign stuff will be usable by mappers in the like custom maps and stuff. Like we don't want to strictly like make it like you can't use our really cool models or whatever, right? We want people to actually be able to use them. So being able to kind of pull that dependency away from games is honored to do, because right now we do depend on Counter-Strike Source for some assets, for maps, for some maps that a lot of maps that that have those textures and models. And so what we're going to be trying to do is minimize that as much as possible. The Momentum Texture Atlas is going to be kind of our tool to be able to execute that in the way that what we're going to be looking at is, first of all, what does CSGO have that can override? Like, did they revamp CSS assets in CSGO? If so, use that. Like, we want to promote people more downloading CSGO and TF2 because they're free, right? CSS is where it gets a little hazy because it's $15 or $10.
It's so annoying.
And it's 2002, 2003 game, right? Really old content that we can't ship.
It hasn't been,
we can't ship it with the game.
$10 maybe. I think it might just be 10 now.
It goes down to $1 during Steam sales. So if you're ever needing the game, definitely buy it for $1. Just sell a skin and buy it. But the main thing is we want to pull away from that dependency as much as possible. So we will have, this isn't final or anything, but we will have a tool that kind of takes the assets from these games that we need and pulls them out into their own VPKs, assuming that you get the VPKs, legitimately. We could do that and pull it out into their own VPKs. And then that just goes in your Momentum or any folder, right? Because we have control over the game and mounting. We can put it anywhere. If you want to put it on some other SSD that's bigger, or, like you have a specific drive, ideally on an SSD, because it's a lot of content that it still has to go through. But it is ideally these content caches that are much smaller, or it varies how much smaller they're going to be, but smaller in size than the original base game. And then also tied to the Momentum Mod Asset Atlas. So ideally, CSS, textures, and models and stuff have equivalents, right? Maybe not models, because collision is going to be a little bit weird, but if we can extract collision data out of the models, we could replace the model with anything, right? It could literally be a tree if it was like a car before or whatever, but it would have the collision of the car. And that's the most important, right? Is we could replace the things with lookalikes, or even look into doing rendering techniques that maybe draw like a flat brush over the collision model, right? So you don't have the model, we warn you about it, we tell you to go and get CSS, but hey, you can still play the maps. They won't look that great. They won't be black and purple, right? They'll be weirdly odd colored, but like it's still playable. It's not eye vomit. So that's important. And at the same time, reducing the size, the overall size, because I know people love their 100 gigabyte games, but Momentum has a very serious concern of potentially going over, multiple hundreds of gigabytes if you download everything and every map and everything. So
How much? Right.
well, okay, surf maps and bunny hop maps don't crack 50 yet.
Yeah.
Jump maps might push it over 100. And then we have all of the original maps, especially PBR textures and stuff. Oh yeah, and then some people have custom, but the TF2 folders tend to include the custom models and textures and stuff from servers, so it's not necessarily everything. And then keep in mind the Momentum mod texture atlas is going to be stripping things out of maps, so the maps themselves should ideally get really small. They should really only have light map data, collision data, and relevant lump data that we have inside of it. And then the asset atlas kind of handles everything else with models. In visuals, right? Models, textures. We could probably leave the VMTs inside of the map, but anyway.
One reason that a lot of, say, people's CSGO surf map folders and stuff are really big is that those CSGO ports have just packed a load of CSS textures into that map.
Yeah.
Which isn't even legal, but it's how a lot of CSGO ports work, right?
Yeah.
We can't do that, which is really annoying. We can't just distribute those textures the way that servers do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my surf maps was I think 90 megabytes in CSS and 50 in TF2 and then 200 megabytes in CSGO, just because of all the stuff that had to be packed into it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's we can't do that. First of all, we can't distribute maps that have packed copywritten stuff inside of it, so we have to pull it out. But the idea with the asset atlas is that the textures and stuff could be uploaded directly to it, and then we could mark textures as the lookalikes of existing paid content. So if you don't have CSS, chances are a lookalike texture is going to work well for you. Maybe this exact sand or grass texture doesn't exist on your computer, but hey, there's this really cool looking one from CSGO that works fine.
Yeah.
So it won't look originally or like the original map does, but it'll still be playable. It won't render black and purple garbage, right? So
there's all these different levels of ways we can make it look better. We can have a lot of flat textures and stuff that aren't pink and white or whatever. We can use reflectivity data, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think we should really be trying to get to the point of having good replacements wherever possible if you don't have CSS.
Yeah.
And still encourage people to get CSS.
To pull to pull that
One thing
dependency
you
out.
haven't mentioned- Yeah. It's such an annoying dependency to have.
Yeah.
One thing we wanted to mention is to submit times to Momentum, even though Momentum is free to play, you're still going to require a full Steam account, or what's the term for the
unlimited, yeah.
Yeah. So you need to have spent $5
of your own money
on Steam already, right? And that's it's kind of essential, security-wise for us. It does so much in terms of people not just being able to make a ton of random fake accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
Not fake accounts, but
Yeah.
So if you do want to go ahead and just spend, I guess, $5 more in that case, and spend 10 on CSS, then it's not a bad investment, really. It'll but yeah. I don't know. It would be so nice to not if CSS was free to play, because then this would be much less of a problem. But
yeah. But here we are. But yeah, as I was saying, removing the CSS dependency could be an overall goal of ours. It would be very, very nice if we could do that. And one of the more extreme ways to do it could be to just actually straight up recreate lookalike textures that would replace CSS ones that we ship with the game, because we created them. So, or we could publish that publicly and just be like, hey, we could name them the same too, and just be like, hey, Gmodders. Anyway, yeah. So there's a bunch of options, but ideally, yes, the goal is to eventually move away from having to mount any game, because, or have any game that we need to mount installed, because we'll have a tool that kind of extracts the things we actually need from the VPKs, and then the texture atlas is going to kind of handle the rest of that. And then we'll ideally be shipping content with the game that we can. So texture packs that we actually get the full permission to ship and like fully credit and stuff for the game, we'll probably try to ship it in VPKs with the game. So like the very popular texture and model packs that people use should ideally be coming with the game if we can get that permission or allowed to just outright from the license. Because copyright is real. Copyright is very real, and we don't want to infringe on people's copyright. So we'll move on from this question. I think we had one more, and we're approaching the 3-hour mark. So we'll go ahead and answer this last one, kind of wrap up the stream here. If you guys have any more questions, keep in mind our Discord link down below. We take all of these questions in the Q&A live channel. So if anything comes to mind, make sure to mark them down in that channel, and we'll answer them in the next stream next month. We also keep in mind, I guess I could do that spiel after this last question. It's more of a wrapping thing. So, all right, sorry, last question here.
Last question. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the one I had here kind of got answered in chat, but there's another one that I think is pretty interesting. So disres 1337 elite. Wow, I haven't seen that in a while. How will profile pages work? Where you can look at stats, maybe config and stuff. So like we do have like profile pages already with like stats, and we're definitely going to be adding a lot more stats. But I guess something we never really thought about was like adding like the ability for people to like upload their config, or like what keyboard you use or something like that. I don't know if that's on the site. I actually haven't looked, but
We have a bio.
We do have bios, yeah.
oh, bio, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can.
Because I know on things like TFTV, at least,
Mm-hmm.
they have like specific sections of like all your different like your setup and your stuff, your sensitivity, and I don't know. I just remember a lot of people from my TF2 days, like going around asking people like, "What HUD do you use?" or
Yeah.
what config,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great question, actually. So the site, yeah, we could actually customize it more to have more game specific settings like sensitivity. We can even have the game automatically update that as you do. So if your sense changes, like, I guess on average, like we won't like, I guess we'll probably look at like default sense because people change it all the time. So we could have it be like something hard coded as well. It won't automatically also do it. Like you'll have to opt into it or something. Having that on the page, absolutely, yeah. We could have a little like info section that has the bio and then that kind of information as well. And then the HUD related stuff, the workshop. I believe we're gonna look into using workshop related stuff for HUDs, for configs. I mean, it's possible. So yeah, like we could look into kind of supporting that customization through the workshop and allowing people to share that way. And then yeah, what HUD are you using? Oh yeah, search this HUD up on the workshop, or link to it in your chat or whatever. Yeah, so definitely a great question there, because yeah, sharing that information. I mean, some people might not give a shit, but a lot of people do, and and having that information generally available for people to be able to search on their own, even though yeah, they probably won't, would still be beneficial. And having an API even, so your Twitch bot !sensitivity pulls it from the site, which pulls it from your game, right, automatically. So things like that'd be awesome. So yeah, the website rewrite needs to happen first. But yeah, got a lot of stuff to work on for the website. So if you guys like doing web dev, please hit us up. We would love to have as many as much help as we can for web dev. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I have like also just kind of a bunch of questions that kind of were answered in the previous Q&A, and some in chat as well. But just wanted to say that go check out our previous one if you have any questions that you want to see if we've answered before.
Yeah,
I'll get a link for that.
Yeah, the questions are all listed in the description with timestamps as well.
And it'll be the same case for this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one will have the same thing. So meta, right? Somebody clicking to this section in the YouTube VOD as we talk about it in the past. But anyway, yes, so definitely get your questions in Q&A live, because we do try to answer some at the end, but we just pulled it right to 3 hours, and that is our cap. Like we're trying to cap it to 3 hours or less. So definitely ask in our Discord if you have any. Feel free to link the Discord as well in chat. I don't have it on off of hand, but I think that's where we're gonna end this stream. So kind of what I was saying before, we do these kind of monthly. Ideally, we could start to do weekly sort of things. I think it would be really cool to have Q&A streams every month, but have like hangout streams, kind of showing off the game, hanging out with people in lobbies, showing off multiplayer, racing eventually when we get that in the game, stuff like that. I think that'll be really awesome. So if you guys like these streams, there's going to be more of them. I got to work on the layout of OBS and stuff, but ideally we're going to also have gameplay during these Q&A things if we want to show off anything relevant. So if people are asking about like racing, we could go in game, show it off, you know, stuff like that.
Mentioned, I was about to say, we're going to have Conkin very soon, so maybe
yeah.
maybe we please play Conk on stream.
Yeah. So anything is possible. But yeah, so I mean that's I guess that's it. We'll be doing more streams in the future. Probably another Q&A with some gameplay, and then eventually the more regular streams as we just kind of hang out. Ideally not just me as well, just host, because right now I'm streaming them, but ideally we kind of share the stream key around to get with everybody in the Discord. So if you want to stream, no. Ideally we kind of just get more regular streams, maybe even get affiliate and or partner on this account. Helps with the quality settings at least. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I guess we can go raid. We can do another raid. Let me, I guess, turn this capture off. There we go. And then
before you raid somebody,
yeah,
I'd say we are definitely and always looking for constructive criticism, constructive feedback. So if anybody has anything, definitely share it in our Discord so we can improve the quality of these streams.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. If we did well, if we don't do well, please let us know. You know, it's always good to get feedback and to make these more higher quality. If you guys want to see specific things, like if you want to see more gameplay, like while we're answering questions, because it's you know, it's kind of boring to just see us, right, just sitting here. If you want to see gameplay while we're answering questions as kind of like you listen and watch as a sort of thing, let us know. We're gonna try to do more of that as well, but like, you know, if you want to see it. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and raid Louis. Louis is streaming some surf, it looks like. Heck yeah. So we're gonna go raid Louis.
No.
But yeah, we'll go ahead and start that. All right, cool. So anyway, the raid message. Should we do please play Kong again? Just every raid message, please play Kong. We need to get emotes. We need to get affiliates so we can start to get some emotes. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, if we do enough streams, we'll get it. Affiliate is like the lowest bar ever. But let's just do smile. Any smilers in chat? Let's just do smile. Smilers. So yes, there is another Q&A next month. Good question. That's the last one for this raid. Let's go ahead and raid Louis. Thank you guys so much for watching, and catch you all in the next one next month. We'll announce it, so join our Discord if you haven't already. But yeah, take care. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.